didn't 100% like look into it completely.
He doesn't
He
the vibe he gives me with his videos is that he doesn't research much. He just goes off of what he experiences.
Exactly.
He covered the story for 4 fucking minutes.
Yeah, he didn't even talk about what happened. I mean, I think he made a point about how good the moments are with Johnny Silverhand and you, and you're just like chilling and just talking about what's going on and stuff. I think those are really good moments, but there's more good moments than just that one. He should have covered
the side quests deserve a lot of praise in that game, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's one of the shining beacons of that game. Like,
yeah, I don't really get like what he's doing. Talking for 20+ minutes in your main review about fucking bugs, it's just like
it's like I get it, I do.
Like, I'm not saying don't address it. Like, it's a huge issue with the game, and it needs to be talked about, and it needs to be brought to light. I get it, but there's also an element of people have been doing this for fucking how long now, and now you're jumping in, and you already like, okay, fine, you made a video about the bugs.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Fine.
I already covered this.
If I was Actman, I would have started the video. It's like, look, the bugs, everything's already been said what could be said about the bugs, but instead, I'm just going to talk about the game. That's
what I was hoping he was going to do.
He kind of needed to take a new angle with it, because it's like, you've done something that's already been tried and tested, and like everybody knows what the problems are with that regard. Why don't you look at a new angle? Why don't you sit and say, right, okay, well, let's actually analyze the story for what it is, separate to all of the bugs, and like, does it stand up aside from the bugs? Does the gameplay stand up? And it's kind of like, well, you said he spent like 4 minutes in the story?
Yeah, 4 minutes.
Something like that.
And
he barely even covered it.
Right?
And there's like three different branching storylines with multiple endings to each one, I believe.
There's definitely a shit ton of endings, yeah.
There's a shit ton of endings, yeah.
Pick the worst one.
So to sit and dumb it down to that extent is kind of like, it's quite negligent in that regard, and it's kind of.
I just want to be like, dude, what are you doing?
He's very negligent with a lot of his stuff. Remember what I was saying to you the other day, Meme, about his stream? So he started to stream. He was going to stream every game on Game Pass, but he didn't even like install the games prior to his stream. So he's like sitting in the stream installing all the games, like just sitting there waiting. It's like, why did you not think ahead to install all the games you were planning on playing on stream today, like while you were asleep overnight or something?
Yeah, like,
I don't know, it's just stuff like that.
Stream, why wouldn't you just download at least a few of the fucking games?
Yeah, he was like clicking on a game. He's like, "Oh, I have to install it." I was like, "How did you not know that, man?"
I don't want to hear on him. But
no, I love the guy. He's amazing. I think he needs to fix his work cycle a little bit.
I think. Well, I was saying this to him,
man.
I don't know if you would agree with this, Spacey, but I feel like he's become a lot more. He seems like a corporate guy at this point, where he seems to. He takes the neutral position more than most. He'll sit and. Like, even whenever he's critiquing something like Cyberpunk, he didn't do it like to the point where it was like. I haven't seen the full Cyberpunk review, but it was even with like. I think it was Black Ops 3 was like one of his reviews where he was like, yeah, this game's utter dog shit. It's like, some of the things he said in that video, some of the things he said, I'm like, have you played the game? Because it doesn't come across like you have.
I completely agree, and I've been on Ackman for a while. My favorite video of his is his video on KOTOR, and I think he went so deep in on that video and covering every aspect of it and being really good on it. But it does seem like he's become a little more, I don't know, casual, maybe mainstream, maybe a little less going into it, and a little more just the bigger.
I said before,
really deep into every little aspect, just looking at one big issue with it that everyone likes to say, and just amplifying that. And that's not how you should be conducting these type of reviews, especially when you have reviews in the past that are of the other kind.
I said before that I think he's really just capitalizing upon like the general consensus or opinion of something.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
He like, the Cyberpunk video is a great example. What's everyone talking about? The bugs. Alright, well, I'll make my entire review about the bugs.
Don't get me wrong, it's probably very good for his career. Like, for him being this person that, like, he's going to get more brand deals from it. He's already... Did he not get sent a Xbox by Microsoft?
Yeah, he got a free Series X. Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff too. He just hit 1 million subscribers.
So I feel like
Cyberpunk video's already at 500k views in 2 days as well.
for him to stay on that trajectory and continue with this, like, I guess vanilla outlook on things, it's beneficial to his. I feel like once you get to that level of mainstream, so many people know you. You can't really have these outlandish, like, crazy left field shouts. You can't come out there with like not that I would ever in a million years say that this is something that he should do, but he's never gonna have something like saying that a game's widely considered to be bad and saying that, oh well, I kind of think it's good. I don't think he would do that for his own, like, to compromise his own success, because he's got to that level where he's kind of. I don't feel like he can say what he actually thinks. Like nothing.
So I
that he
have a
says
good
is ever
example.
egregious. Go ahead.
I have a good example of this. It's not about a game, and I don't know how knowledgeable you guys would be on this, but he did a
Dragon
review
Ball.
on Dragon Ball. I was just about to say that. He said, "Why is Dragon Ball better than Dragon Ball Z?" And me and Meme have had this conversation a million times. There's an argument for why someone could personally like Dragon Ball more than Dragon Ball Z, but that's just not his argument. His argument is a completely uninformed take on like the differences between the two, and really just bad informed take. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember being like, "Dude, did you even look this up when you said this?"
Yeah.
And like that's his left field opinion right there, right? But it's wrong. You can have your opinion, right? But it's not an opinion thing. He's almost trying to say like objectively, Dragon Ball is
his
better than
videos
Dragon
aren't
Ball Z.
Really, opinion pieces. They're why is this game so bad?
Yeah.
It's not why I think this game is not that good.
Why this,
you know what I mean?
But even that framing of it, does it not come across as why the community feels like this game is so bad? Because like whenever I'm thinking of the video that's disappointed me the most out of all of his videos was the Cold War video, because I was like, this is the one time where, out of like putting aside Black Ops 4 and all of the futuristic games, this should be one where you're like, you can quite clearly see that they're trying to cater to people through fan service. You can quite clearly see what they're trying to do.
He was a sucker for the campaign.
He just lapped it up. And we're sitting there like, this, like, how are you getting reeled in by this shit?
we were, if there was ever a time for us to need Act-Man to make like a Call of Duty video, it was then, because like we want him to be critical on it because he clearly knows what a good Call of Duty campaign is, because he loves Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2's campaign, and he knows why they're good. He explains why they're good. He gives you actual reasons why they're good, and then he plays Cold War and he's just like, I love Mason, I love Woods, I love
So strange.
Yeah.
Dude, come on.
Because I'm even someone, I've told Meme this, I don't know anything about Call of Duty really. I'm very base level on Call of Duty, and I played that campaign and thought it was fucking shit. It didn't make any sense. That ending was so absurd and like trying to like Inception blow your mind or something like that. Like wow. It didn't hit at all. I was not like, oh, the red door, you got me. And it's just that was not it at all.
Yeah, they really were trying
flat.
to bank on the Black Ops 1 twists, and then they tried like basically redoing it, and it just was kind of falls flat.
I saw a video of James C. Burns the other day, and this was a newer video that I hadn't seen, and they were talking about a character moment Woods had in Cold War. The guy like interviewing him was like, "It's not that I feel like the voice actor is the problem; it's I think that the writing doesn't fit Woods' character." And so it was the mannequin moment in the game, and James C. Burns is like, I feel like Woods in that situation would try to find a way to just like move things forward, you know, and he would, you know, because he's like always, you know, go. Like that's the status of like that's how COD games are paced usually.
Super.
I feel like Woods would be like, you know, you'd like take off the mannequin head. Tonight, let's go.
Every mission we go on is illegal.
Yeah, that was such a bad line.
Dialogue sucks in that game.
I'm a goddamn onion, Mason. You should know that about me, buddy.
Very disappointed. Very disappointed with bullshit fan service in that game. Just very.
Yeah, that's
empty.
another thing Ackman just misses on. That's a good point.
Like it's like, dude, how do you miss this stuff? You're the Call of Duty
80% of the
guy.
time,
You
the
should
guy's
fucking
good,
know
but
this stuff, man.
Things fall through with him.
The things of having like Sakaev and Kravchenko, I'm kind of like, those are things where I'm like, it's quite obvious that you're trying to appeal to fan service, but then in the back of my mind, I'm like, if that's the route you want to go down, why do you not have like Sam Worthington? Why do you not have James C. Burns? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because it's like they haven't committed to one side or the other, and that's kind of part of the reason why I feel like it's such a. It was clearly a game that failed because of being between two development teams. I feel like if it was if it was a part of one project the entire time, it would have been so much better for it, because it would have been under the one vision. But as soon as you split that, you have two different teams with two different ideas of where the story will go, what you want to bring into it, and like it's kind of the way that like Woods and Mason, and maybe not Hudson as much, but a few of the characters like Kravchenko for instance, they kind of feel like they're crowbarred in there, and they just don't.
No, I've said this before. Like it's two different. Like you can tell like two developers worked on the story for this game, like because you can tell that like Adler and like those characters were supposed to be the main focus of the game, and then Treyarch got into it halfway through, and they were just like, oh fuck, throw Mason and Woods in there, and you can tell.
Imagine what you could have got though if you actually focused on Park and Lazar and Sims. Like they're not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're unbelievable characters, but they weren't fleshed out anywhere near to what they could have been. And I'm like, if you take away those missions where you play as Woods and Mason, if you take away the unnecessary dialogue with Woods and Mason, all I really see is a game where you have so much more time that you can devote to these other characters, fleshing out your relationship with them. They just didn't go down that route.
And you could have that instead of having these two characters have all their development in one mission, and one of them is clearly going to die because they're talking about going on a date, and it's completely out of left field, and it's in a single mission.
Park, I'm going to take you on a date. Oh.
They obviously did not pay attention to the story, and I think that's amplified by the fact they didn't bring James C. Burns back. They obviously didn't care that much about keeping the actual flow of the story and the characters, because they don't even care enough to bring back the original actors who created the character in a way.
Do you think
Josh, let's go live. This is good banter.
I'm currently recording at the minute.
So we're just recording it though?
Yeah.
We are live.
I mean, I can...
How long have you been recording?
For the past 12 minutes.
Oh, Ackman!
Tell the Ackman I hate him. I love him.
Oh God!
Ackman, I swear!
Wait, this is a BioShock video. Hold on.
Well, no, this is where we can start to get into, because...
Yeah, I was just saying, no, it's nice to have banter at the beginning. Why not?
I didn't mean it, Ackman. I kind of
did. God,
dude, this is the thing. It's like the third time we've talked. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like the Ackman update podcast. We're just like, all right, Ackman's fucked up again.
Well, we're only talking about him because we love him. We're big fans.
We love this man.
I mean, dude, we just expect more from him, I guess. I don't know.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Stop sucking his dick, guys. He's shit, alright? Just admit it. His best is behind him. His Call of Duty videos is where he peaked, and he's never gone back there, okay? He's never going to be the same. He's never going to be as good. Just get your heads around it, okay?
Hey, you want a video of his is really, really good? His BioShock video.
Yeah, that's a good transition. Ooh.
Did somebody say BioShock?
BioShock?
This is here.
That brought Fungus back from the dead.
Fungus is back from the dead, dog.
BioShock.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
Rosebud.
Oh my god.
Well,
yeah, I just he missed on that Cyberpunk video though.
He just missed.
That man don't always hit.
Not always.
Only a few shooters hit every time.
Yeah.
So
But, it's alright.
What all do you want to get into first? Because I feel like we can talk about elements of the game without going into spoilers at the start, like talking about the gameplay and stuff. Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
the overall creation.
coming
of the
from
world.
it. I think we're all coming at it from a unique perspective, so we could elaborate on that first. I guess.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to go
If
into?
you want to start, Josh.
I mean, I can do. There's not really much to say. I didn't have a clue about the game. I think I seen my mate play it whenever I was younger, and I just wasn't really terribly interested in it at the time. And then recently,
Because you had no taste.
yeah, this is true. I just don't have any opinions. And recently, then Meme was like, "Hey, here's another game that you're gonna buy." I was like, "Oh, okay."
This.
Hey, Discord,
Wait, so
this game good.
when's he getting a fee? Out of curiosity, you need to.
What's that?
You need to contact Valve about getting a fee.
Yeah, lots of Steam sales happening.
Got a few,
Lots of VR headsets being bought because of me too, I guess.
Oh god.
Official promoters here.
but yeah, I basically went into the franchise completely raw. I've still not played Bioshock 2 or the third one, which everybody loves.
Talk of the third.
But
Don't start.
yeah, I just only recently got into it and I absolutely love it.
That's good stuff. My perspective is I played it once back in the day when it came. When did it come out? 2010?
7?
7?
I think
Okay.
2007.
I played it around then, and I played a little bit of it, but I was a stupid head, kind of like Josh was saying. I didn't have any taste back then. Played through all 3 games in 2016. Really liked 1 and 2. Infinite, meh. But it's been a long time since I've engaged with the series, and I recently replayed the first 5 hours, like I said, recently. So, jumping back a little back into it.
Yeah.
So I have an interesting experience with this series. So back in 2013, I had not played any of the Bioshock games, and Bioshock Infinite came out, and for some reason, I took up an interest in this game. I played it, and I was like, "Oh my god, this game! It's so deep. It's a masterpiece." And I was like 9 out of 10, and hadn't played it since.
Fast forward a lot of years.
Fast forward a lot of years, a lot of sadness, a lot of coom, and here I am. I come across the people on this podcast, and Meme starts talking about this little series called Biocock, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've played Infinite."
Played the Infinite.
He was like, "What?"
What? Very accurate.
I'm beginning to
Yeah.
realize that
And-
this sounds like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting.
Yeah.
This is my experience.
I remember the first time I played
And
Bioshock.
Meme goes into a sales rep mode and is like, "Dude, you have to buy it. You have to buy Bioshock 1 masterpiece." And I was like, "All right, calm down, Meme boy. I'll buy it." And
No one tells better than Meme.
yeah, no, he really he should get some compensation. He really should.
We're looking at
but I got
all the compensation I need is that my boys enjoyed a good game. That's all I need at the end of the day.
oh, don't bullshit us. You want money. But so yeah, I got both the games because of Meme's recommendation, and I started playing Bioshock 1, and within 20 minutes, I knew it was special. I knew it. Like I was
That
messaging
opening-
Meme. Yeah, I was messaging Meme after the opening. I was like, "Dude, this is."
I loved that so much because that is really the moment. Like, especially back when it came out, when people played it, they're like, "Oh my god, this intro!" It's just there is something about that fucking atmosphere that video games just do not hit like they do like back then. Like especially with Bioshock,
Sure.
like they did something.
Obviously, I did. It is a masterpiece. It's not a perfect game, but in my subjective sense of what a masterpiece is, I think it is one.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think 2 is criminally strangle him.
underrated. Is that what you said?
criminally underrated, and I absolutely loved 2. And then I replayed Infinite, and things changed.
Things changed.
My outlook on the world turned bleak.
Yeah, and it was funny too because he the conversation about Bioshock Infinite, it was actually like I was having an argument with Jack in the Discord kind of about it. Not really an argument, just kind of like a discussion at first, and then it turned into an argument. But Squid was there, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know." He's like, I remember liking Infinite, and I was just like, "Listen, I just need you to play the other two to understand, and then if you still like it afterwards, then fine. But I think if you have the context from the first two games, you'll really understand why it's not great. I mean, on top of all the other reasons, BioShock Infinite's terrible, but fucking when you play the other games, it just amplifies that. And as much as Jack wants to say fuck the context does actually matter in that sense.
Agree.
But
So, that's how that started.
anyone else want to elaborate on the experience they had with the game, or
Fungus,
do we just?
you wanna go, my good man, my good Welshman?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. The atmosphere is perfect. The game design is also perfect. The way that it really emphasizes the claustrophobia and the awkwardness of being in of what you'd think an underwater city would be like. Sound design as well. It's always a very creepy. Everything's very creepy, and the way the splicers act, it's very disturbing. They are
Horror
just completely
atmosphere.
cracked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a horror game, but it does do really.
It's spooky.
It's very
suspenseful.
unsettling.
I feel that claustrophobia a lot when you're moving into the tubes that connect all the places and stuff.
No,
Yeah,
I go ahead.
Usually I interrupt you. I really, because I played it. I played the original one on Steam instead of the remaster. I don't know if this was intentional or not by the game designers, but because it has a very tight FOV, it felt more claustrophobic, and I was looking around a lot more because I had a much smaller peripheral vision, so I was a lot more on edge than I would be if I was playing it. If I think I was a lot more on edge than if I had it with a wider FOV.
That makes sense.
That's a good point. I didn't think of it like that.
No, I completely agree. Like if like I come out of BioShock 1 with one word, and like it's atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like that's there's
Yeah,
something
that's the
about
one
this
thing.
game's atmosphere that is unmatched, and I don't think any game is ever going to get even close.
It's the combination of all the different things, right? You're pulling up and seeing the grandiose of the city and how beautiful it is, and then getting in there and seeing how nasty and messed up things actually are, and then slowly going through the audio logs. It slowly starts piecing together this world and this place, and it just keeps adding and building until I don't know if it ever stops building.
It's great. I don't think the atmosphere gets very much wrong. I never felt like, oh, okay, that doesn't make sense. Well, why the hell's that? That's kind of dumb. But even the gun vending machines before I looked, I found an audio log that explained why they were there. They were just so seamlessly connected in. They looked so world appropriate that you just don't question it.
Audio logs are huge.
Well,
Before we get into that, I guess I'll just give my experience getting into the game, right? So take me back to the early days of my gaming hood, right? I one of my favorite games of all time was most of the games in the Resident Evil series. I think Resident Evil 4 was like my favorite game at the time. I always loved the atmosphere in that game. As silly as that game can be, it really does have a very unique atmosphere to it.
Yep.
And it was Resident Evil 4, and then the year after BioShock would be Dead Space. Those are the only, and not even just exclusive to Resident Evil 4, just up until 4, the whole franchise just has an amazing atmosphere with the world building and stuff like that in those games. But the year after BioShock 1 would be Dead Space, and that was the only other game that really ever gave me that sense of just atmosphere and
That has real, yeah.
isolation.
Yeah, it's just fascinating to me that no games have really hit like that besides Dead Space, really.
Well, I was gonna say, those that period of time was a golden era for video games, where you had that was around about the time where you had the likes of World at War coming out. You had Dead Space, BioShock.
Batman Arkham Asylum is another title that comes to mind that just masterfully captures the atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible.
It really was. It really was a magical time from games. 2005 to like 2009, we had just absolute bangers, like just nonstop. It was kind of crazy.
I would say that BioShock and Dead Space, they have a comparative atmosphere, right? But I feel like BioShock's atmosphere is more added to by the story than Dead Space's is. Where Dead Space is or just an
I don't know about
overall
that actually, because
I'm not saying like completely. There is story to Dead Space that keeps you invested in what's going on and stuff like that. I don't know, something about the splicers and Andrew Ryan and all that type of stuff going on. Just that really just pushed it on me. I never felt like I had that extra story exposition pushing into a Dead Space.
The reason why I challenge it is because I think what Dead Space and BioShock do the same thing in the sense that they justify every single thing within the game, within its game world. They justify it all, and like you have the plasmids, and they have a thematic reason for being there. You have gameplay reasons for them being there, but you also have a story reason for them being there. Same thing in Dead Space. Like you have your health displayed on your back, but it's also justified within the game world. You have it's my point is that both of these games within their atmosphere, they justify everything that exists within it.
Yeah,
I think that's a very good point.
That's a credit to the world building in those games. If nothing else, I think BioShock probably just has a little bit more meat.
Yeah, kind of like combined with like the audio logs and stuff like that is kind of the point I'm trying to say. There's still a lot of story exposition and stuff you can find out in Dead Space. I really felt like the whole combination of the world and the people who are in charge of the world and how the world slowly fell really just
Yeah, and it's probably helped by the fact that there's like these fascinating characters in BioShock, and in Dead Space there's cool characters, but like
it's pretty much
horror in Dead Space.
Yeah, they have the same atmosphere that just grabs you and takes you.
That's not a criticism at Dead Space.
Not at all.
Either. It's just and I think that's exactly what they were going for. Is the isolation.
Yeah, no, like Dead Space made me feel depressed when playing it.
It makes you fucking feel alone and hopeless. Like it hits exactly what they were trying to do. It's just you have in BioShock, you just have certain characters that enrich the world. Like you have Andrew Ryan and you have Atlas and you have Frank Fontaine and characters that like you hear through these like audio logs that really just you have the context, and then you have these characters that literally just enrich it more. It's like wow, yeah, this really is a lot.
Feels so natural with the audio logs.
Another similar thing that BioShock and Dead Space do is it's really just a testament to how great the world building is in BioShock and Dead Space as well. I'm not trying to turn this into a Dead Space review as well, but it's as it is part of the topic as it is right now. In both of the games, you explore the world and you see every aspect of it. So like in BioShock, you'll see like the industrial side of Rapture. You'll see the agricultural part of Rapture. In Dead Space, you'll kind of see the same thing. You'll see where workers would blow off steam in specific areas where like you have the gravity basketball area,
Yeah.
you would
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but like there's moments like that all throughout both of these games where like it's an entirely realized world, and it just does so much to service it does such a service to the immersion of it.
They both use that beautifully to enhance their games.
Yeah,
the realism of it.
I just remember like even when I was just younger, like when BioShock came out, like I'm saying, like nothing. There's just something special that they did there, and I think they know that they did it. I mean, their mission statement, when you listen to their E3 like mission statement for what they want for, like they wanted to change, they wanted to almost redefine what the FPS genre does, and like they really fucking did, and like it's really impressive.
It makes you wonder why no other developers took notice after BioShock came out.
Yeah, there's some certain diamonds in the rough. Like you got like the Prey reboot, which is like fantastic, but it's like all these.
And you got like System Shock 2 in the back, like in the OG 2, which is a predecessor, right?
Yeah, it's BioShock's almost like a spiritual successor in a way, and there's definitely games that do it. It's just like these AAA games, they just fucking miss, and like I even noticed like my whole point is I noticed that when I was younger, like there was really no games that hit like that. So when I was younger and I played BioShock for the first time, I was like, man, like they really like did the fucking legwork. Like, just even like the first area you finally get to walk around, you're like, it's like the New Year's celebration. There's like an audio log there, and they're counting down like the ball drop and shit like that. And like that's when all the fucking mayhem starts to cut loose, and like you see like all the decorations for the new year, and like there's fucking like party streamers and party hats laying, like everything's like tossed around. There's water like leaking into that area and stuff. Like it's things like that where you just look at it and you're like, wow, like this is one of gaming's like strongest. Like when you look at like movies and like TV shows, and then you like look at gaming, you're like, this is gaming's biggest strength. Is like this environmental storytelling that you just can't get from like movies and TV shows and stuff.
Some
and,
movie
like,
controls
BioShock
your
played
perspective.
into one of like video games' biggest strengths, in my opinion. I think that's why the game is just so amazing. It's just a masterpiece.
For sure. That New Year's moment, that's like, it feels like that moment's almost ripped out of time. Like the exact moment that everything fell. You can see it. It's almost like you were there. That's how real and how well created that was. It obviously happened a long time ago, but it feels like it just happened like 10 minutes ago from looking at that scene.
Yeah, Rapture is just like a diamond covered in like mud, essentially. Like you can see like what it is, like its beauty, but like you gotta look past all the fucking carnage and shit. But like once you do, and like that's the beauty of the it's almost like they built the environments to be exactly what they are, and then they destroyed them. Like that's how good the environment team was for that game. It's really impressive.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
But yeah, I mean, like that was how I got introduced to the game. Just the hype around was pretty big. I remember everyone fucking talking about it. I didn't get it right away. I had friends who played it and they recommended it to me, and then I ended up playing BioShock 2, which, you know, came out later, and I fucking loved BioShock 2. And I don't know if it was because I was like a Halo fan and I'm like, ooh, I get to be like a big guy in a suit who like fucking crushes people. Like I don't know like what it was, but then
that was a really cool concept. The big beat plays the big daddy.
Yeah, and I replayed it as an adult, and I'm like, no, this game actually has like a pretty fucking good story. And like all the criticism back then was just like, yeah, it just doesn't hold any water to BioShock 1. And I'm like, I just don't agree. Like I feel like they're trying to do different things.
That DLC
like,
too.
Yeah, Minerva's Den is just whew, make the toughest of men cry. I swear to God, that DLC it hits.
That last audio log, man, that was rough.
Yeah, it will fucking hit. Like I don't care who you are. Like if you're going into that game, if you're going into that DLC with an open mind, you're not trying to be like, oh, okay, whatever. Like if you
Where's BioShock 2?
Yeah, you play it and you actually like sit there and engage with the story. It's gonna fucking hit like any movie that like makes you feel emotional towards the end. Like that DLC is just beautifully written. And like one of my favorite DLCs of all time. Like seriously, it's up there.
And bringing it in with one, I think having two and having it being just as good shows you how amazing the world of Rapture is, and how many stories there are to tell in this place, and how many things there are to explore and do.
That's when you capture it. Like it's like, see, it just goes to show how great how much the studio that handled BioShock 2 really handled it with care. And
very respectful.
And then BioShock Infinite came. We don't need to get into it. We don't need to talk about that.
It's wild how a team that wasn't the same development team as BioShock 1 makes BioShock 2. It's super respectful, and if nothing else, only enriches the story of BioShock. And then you have Infinite, and it literally goes against every single aspect of what made BioShock amazing.
Coming from somebody,
but we don't need to talk about it though.
Coming from somebody that
I just sort of mention that during the, because when you guys are talking about water spraying out, as you're going through these tunnels as they're falling apart, there was that scene in the BioShock Infinite DLC when there was a chip or a hole in the glass in the department store, and it's just like a little trickle of water coming out, even though Atlas says you're like under 5,000 fathoms below the sea.
Yeah, you're even lower than the
That's
regular
a good
city
example
at that point, which is hilarious.
Yeah, you're deeper than the Mariana Trench, but there's instead of it being like a pressurized laser beam of water, it's just a little trickle.
It's like dripping out. It's like I don't think that's how that works, Doug.
Yeah.
Coming from
It
someone
would actually
still,
split you in half.
from someone that's still yet to play the BioShock 2, it'll be very interesting to see how one holds up in comparison, because going back to it, like we've still not even touched on. There's so many things to speak about in this one game, which is why we've decided to have this as a completely separate episode. Like even, like not even talking about the story. We're already like 30 minutes into this episode. We have like even the gameplay itself, which is something that's spoiler free that we can definitely get into now. It's some of the most dynamic, diverse like gameplay that you can have in a game that I've not really experienced in many games, where you have so many different playstyles, you have so many different routes that you can choose to go down through your gameplay. Like you can go through. Meme said he did a playthrough with only a wrench. You can go through it on like. You can decide to upgrade your pistol. You can decide to upgrade your.
Be a super hacker.
Yeah, you can hack everything. You can decide to leave all of the turrets. You can try and lure some of the enemies in towards some of the like the turrets and the drones and stuff. They can take care of them for you. It's just you
can spec into completely different plasmids for each
That's
playthrough.
A big daddy strat. Get the turrets on them.
You could play like literally like a booby trapper in that game and never even engage with people. Honestly, like if you really spec'd into it, you used all the plasmids that are meant for booby trapping, all the weapons that are meant for booby trapping. Like you could really just fucking destroy people with that method alone. Like, and that's a completely unique play style compared to anything else in that. Like,
so amazing.
To most of the play styles in that game, like that's a very unique one all on its own.
Like when
very different from anything else.
When you guys were talking about the atmosphere, one of the things that I think makes the atmosphere of this game is how interactive the game is. Where you have plasmids that can interact with your environment constantly. You have
it's my favorite part about the game. I love it so much.
Like you have the fire plasmid that can was it Inferno that can melt ice to get you into new areas. You have the telekinesis that can pull items towards you that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get. You have just so many, like it's such a dynamic game that on the face value it may not look like you have tons and tons of options, but actually playing the game, it's incredible how
it really
much
does.
you have to work with.
Well, it just shows you the amount of depth. It shows you the amount of depth the plasmids have when they take away all of your weapons except for the wrench, and you have to pretty much rely entirely upon the plasmids. And like how you're just like constantly switching is like, I'll use this combination, then that combination, and it's just I'll never forget like the first time I was like, it was like even before Atlas told you, he's like, I looked at a puddle of water and I was like, I wonder, and I shocked the puddle of water and it killed all the enemies in it, and I was like, oh, I fucking love this game. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know how viable it would be to like play a whole game with just plasmids or play with just gun, but those are fun like speedrun things too, and that's just a cool way of showing you have. It would seem like, oh, you either just use your gun or your plasmid, but you have so many different plasmids you can use. You have so many different guns you could use. You can use a mix of both, or you could just use one or the other.
Yeah, you can. There's in a lot of the weapons are complemented by a lot of the plasmids as well. Which is like really fucking cool. Like
you don't see these play styles in first-person shooters, right? All these options, all these things you can do. You see it more in like RPGs or something like that. I love that. That's so cool.
But
they really hit the survival horror like type of item management in that game. Like
it's why you need to play the game on hard. You need to play it on hard.
Or survival.
But, yeah.
Kills.
Yeah, it's just, man, they really like fucking like just like the way I play, like you guys, some of you saw like how I was playing. Like I will be the greediest fuck. Like if I lose health, I'll run back like 20 minutes to a section where I know there's a free health kit that I can grab off like out of a box or something. I'm like, I stay at the maximum amount. Like I'll make sure my wallet is at least above like $400 at all times. Like I always have to make sure I have everything like set, and I'm like, I love playing like that in games. Like that's why I love Resident Evil. Like Resident Evil is really big on like item management, and BioShock fucking hits that like gaming fucking kink for me like nothing else does, dude.
Yeah,
it's like a drug for me. Like I fucking love that.
I love that. It's so true.
Dead Space as well, really fucking good.
Little difference. I don't know what it is between. I think it's just because Resident Evil's more horror and Dead Space is more horror. It's the same management and the same scaredness and the same like, oh my god, I gotta go all the way from here to here to get this, to do that.
It's like, what if I don't fucking have the ammo? It's like I gotta be really careful. I gotta like.
If I run into a big daddy.
And that's like, I could just like open my map and like I can like map a way out to get to like a vending machine to buy something, or like, oh, there's an area I haven't been to that's not it's off the beaten path a little bit, but maybe I'll like find a safe or like some containers I could find some ammo in and like stockpile some money or something, or like I could hack, certain things and just get like money out of it or whatever. Like, there's just like so many things like that. Like, it's just, you just really miss out on that shit when you go and play with something like BioShock Infinite. It really it makes you like kind of sad, because you're like, man, like it's really missing a lot of the
choice
punch that BioShock
But
has.
building upon the resource management idea is the mechanic of the big daddies in the video game, which I absolutely fucking adore. Because like,
so unique.
You're obviously going to be fighting all of the big daddies, and there will be points in the game where you'll find one and you'll be like, I'm not ready for this fight. But guess what? You don't have to do it right there. You can come back later when you have more stuff and you know you're ready for this fight. And
you can
they're fucking tough too. They're tough. Like,
you
they're
can get
gonna
that
kick your
plasmid.
ass.
What's the plasmid that it'll get all the turrets to attack someone? You can throw the plasmid at the big daddy and then go set off the turrets, right? And that's such a cool way of getting around things.
Even just they have the hypnotized big daddy plasmid in general, which you could just get the big daddy to fight a bunch of splicers, maybe chip away at its health like slightly, and give you a little bit more of an edge.
Do you know my favorite part of the entire game? Like, foregoing the story, my favorite part of the entire game was I think it was in Hephaestus. So the mechanical area of the map, and
towards the end.
And I was like, do you reckon can I get these Rosies, these big daddies, to fight each other? No. There's no way. I brought them together and they killed each other at the exact same moment. I was just sitting there like, I love this.
Awesome,
this is so good.
I didn't know that either. That's amazing.
Dude, the AI interacting with each other in that game, man, that the splicers are like some of the best enemies like in video games. They're just, and like I myself, I like them for probably an entirely different reason than most people like them, but I recognize like why people love them. But I just love laughing at them. They're just fucking crackheads, dude. They're just acting like fucking psychopaths, and they come running at you screaming, and they'll like, you have like tripwires set up and they'll fucking trip over the tripwire and fall off a bridge, like screaming at the top of their lungs like fucking psychos. I just love, there's so much character with these, it's just an enemy type, you know what I mean? And then on top of that, you have all these different versions of the splicers in the game. All the fucking enemy variety is like awesome in that game. It's insane.
Oh yeah. And it's all justified too, right? If I lived in that broken utopia, I'd be a cuckoo head too.
Yeah, and like, and not only that, it's justified in that there's different types. Like, you have like the leadhead splicers. Those are the splicers that, abused the like, the plasmid that would make them stronger or whatever, and then they just constantly were using that one. Or you have like the Houdini splicers that were constantly using like that type of plasmid, and like there's like, they have like their own like specific ones and stuff like that, and it's just really fucking cool.
Okay, but so I need to bring it up because while the game, in my eyes, is a masterpiece, that doesn't mean it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's some problems with the gunplay and the gameplay in the later half of the game.
So,
and also we need to discuss the camera mechanic as well.
So
the gunplay is not what I would call extremely satisfying. It's like, there's some guns that are satisfying to use, but there's a lot of like guns that just lack that punch to them. And
definitely not like
I didn't
Doom
mind
or something.
No. But like it's like it didn't bother me as much because like I'm more so like planning what I'm doing in a fight rather than really focusing on like how this gun feels. Pick a little bit, but one of my bigger in the second half, I can pinpoint exactly when it happens. It's
the moment you get to
after
Hephaestus.
Cohen's masterpiece.
Yeah,
yes,
as soon as you get to
Hephaestus. So after that, the enemies just artificially get stronger. They become bullet sponges, essentially.
So
if you have not engaged with your camera mechanic at all, they are complete bullet sponges, and they'll eat up all your ammo, even after you've upgraded all your weapons. Like, I've said this before, but it's really frustrating when, like, I put, both these upgrades into my shotgun, and then the shotgun is doing less damage to these splicers than they would have when I first got it.
So I have a couple things to say on that, because I know I can pinpoint the exact moment, because I remember playing through it, and I think I was in a call with you guys while I was playing that exact point in the game, and I come out, I think I was in a bathysphere. I come out of it, I'm walking down this tube, and then there's a bunch of splicers, and I'm like, right, I'll pick these guys off and I'll get on to the next area. I'm like, holy shit, my guns are doing nothing. It was like, It took me back to the very first point in the game where the game forces you to fight I think, does it force, I don't think it forces you to, but you're supposed to fight a Big Daddy in the medical facility at the start of the game. I just get dicked. Like, especially playing on Survivor, it is incredibly unforgiving, where if you're in the wrong place for even a second, you get absolutely fucked by the game. And against these splicers, I was like, I'm supposed to pick you guys off in like a few minutes, if even that, like less. And no joke, it took me the best part of like 10 minutes to get rid of like 3 splicers. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable complaint. I can't remember that myself, but I mean,
so
I hate when
right?
these get bullet spongy instead of evolving.
So this is the thing where I can agree with the criticism of the enemies get arbitrarily stronger towards the end of the game, because obviously at that point you're kind of a god at that point. You've already upgraded a few of your plasmids, or not upgraded your plasmids, but you've got more plasmids through the the gatherer's gardens. But you'll have upgraded your guns. You're gonna have a lot more things that you can do to interact. So I think you have like 4 different trees. You have the physical, the engineer, the security, and what's the other one? Oh, I can't remember for the life of me. But you have,
I can't remember either.
Essentially, it's a bunch of skill trees that you'll have not maxed out, but you're pretty solid with regards to a lot of things. And the game needs a way to kind of set you back a little bit, because at that point, you are around about Cohen's masterpiece, around about halfway through the game, you're the strongest you'll ever be. However, using the camera mechanic, I very quickly figured out that even on Survivor, having used the camera mechanic for not even that long in Hephaestus, the enemies kind of dwindled all of a sudden. Because because Meme had said about how, because he had been using the camera mechanic consistently throughout the game, he found it that he didn't really experience any massive increase in enemy strength, because he had that, like, he maintained the same level because he was using the camera mechanic. As soon as I started to use the camera in Hephaestus, I all of a sudden didn't have the same issues anymore. Like, very quickly I realized, oh shit, like, I'm actually I might as well be back in Cohen's masterpiece again, but slicing through slicers, funny enough.
But necessarily, this brings us to the camera mechanic, which is also a problem.
It's very inconsistent.
They definitely put a lot of stock in the camera mechanic, and it's just, they don't, for one, when you first get it, you're like, okay, this is a cool concept, and they don't really like go deep on it, like with an explanation or anything. It's just, they try to give you an example, but it's not, the reward system's not really explained. So like, as somebody who's been playing the game since it fucking came out, I just always use it because I know the game, it's just gonna make the game easier. But like, you can't expect players to just, because like the system itself isn't even like done well, because they want you to take a really good picture, and it's like, well, what is a really good picture? And it's just like, well, I don't know. I guess I have to do trial and error, and it's just like, it doesn't really translate well, even with the trial and error. Like, trying to take a picture, like, oh, well, if I take them when they're in a group, it does better. And then it's like, okay, well,
you don't know how
even
much
then it's like,
better,
okay, well, I'm trying to take and
they kill me while I'm taking a picture.
It really does devolve into just spamming until it doesn't let you get any more points,
which is clearly not what they wanted you to do.
No, not at all. And that's one of the things BioShock 2 really improved on, was that they took away the camera, but they gave you a video camera, and they turned it into a change up the way you play type mechanic, which is really rewarding and really fun, and it just adds more to the gameplay. Whereas in BioShock 1, I feel like it kind of takes away from it, because almost every encounter will start out the same if you're playing the way I play, which is pull out your camera, snap as many pictures as you can, put the camera away, then start fighting. And like, whereas in Bioshock 2, it's like not as integral to the gameplay. Like, it'll definitely help, but you don't need it as much as you need it in Bioshock 1, where, like you said, enemies become fucking just spongy as hell in the later half. And like in Bioshock 2, it's not as prevalent, but like, you know, if you do it, it's gonna help you. But like, it just makes the gameplay better in Bioshock 2, whereas in 1, I feel like it's kind of a hindrance.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't really push you to use the camera too much,
No,
right?
They have.
I can't remember being like, "Yeah, use your camera." Like one
After
time they were
that-
like, "Camera."
Yeah, after that first section, and then Cohen, like, if you're counting, if you even count Cohen, it's like they don't even really like talk about the camera or like kind of want you to use it or anything. Like, there's no incentive. But when you know what the incentive is, you're like, well, of course, that's an amazing incentive. I can triple my fucking damage against enemies. Like, of course I want that. It's like, but you can't expect the player to know that that's what
No, it's
Yeah,
not well
they
communicated
should have
to the
made it
player
more
at all.
obvious. They should have pushed it more.
Because like my first playthrough, like I used the camera for this one mission, and it's like, all right, well, this is kind of an annoying mechanic. I'm not going to use it after. And it's like, you get picked to like slightly increase like damage, like, and like the first upgrades you get is like, it's like increased damage for like the specific ammo type. It's like, well, I mean, that's kind of like hyper specific and not really that helpful. Like, it doesn't communicate well to you just how much of a buff you're going to get against these certain enemy types in the later levels.
Across as optional.
Yeah, it comes off as very, very optional
sure.
and not at all mandatory.
Yeah.
But it's clear that they really wanted you to use it because, I mean, the enemies get way harder.
Yep.
But I will say that upon using the camera mechanic, even on the hardest difficulty, it still wasn't that much of like. It honestly, like the enemies were still tanky because most of the enemies, even in the medical facility at the start of the game, they're still really tanky on the hardest difficulty. But you definitely will reap the rewards from using the camera mechanic. But I can admit that it just wasn't clearly defined how important that was to the game.
Yeah, it's super important, right? Because I mean, I myself was played through it recently, and you get to those fucking advanced Rosies that are just almost impossible to fight, right? But when you have like max research on them, I mean, I literally was four-shotting them with a shotgun. Like, that's how easy they become when you have the camera. So it's like, I feel like they really needed to emphasize it, and then obviously they just need to implement it better in general. But like,
it's more of
it
an
just
importance
did not
out of it.
translate well, like the way that they had it implemented.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism. I agree with that.
Yeah.
There is
one of my biggest issues.
But to go back onto like a bunch of things without getting into the story first, one thing that this game has, I don't think is rivaled by many in this regard, and if there are many, you can definitely call me out on it, but the level design of the maps and of each of the different areas, and to the degree
Fantastic.
that you have so many different routes, you have so many different hidden areas that you can access, that I remember that because throughout my game kept crashing a lot, and I suppose I could probably go into that later, but whenever I would restart a particular mission, I would go through it again. I'd be like, shit, I didn't see this last time. You have entire like areas that you can completely miss upon your first playthrough. Whenever you go back,
I think you're right for sure. Especially when you're considering first-person shooter games, none of them have anything even close to that type of level design. The only thing that's coming to my mind again would be something like Resident Evil, which is kind of a different game, though. It's more like one giant explorable place, where Bioshock gives you a bunch of like more smaller areas that are still very explorable. But you're in this area, then you go to the next place and you explore all that.
like
It really is top tier, and it's very similar in that same way, where it's just a beautiful area that's so masterfully created that you just want to explore and you want to see every part of it.
Oh yeah.
definitely rewarded for exploring, which like
Oh yeah, too, and it rewards the player who will look around the corner.
which I feel like whenever their development team was talking about changing what it means to have a first person shooter and to like reinvent that idea, whenever you think of like other mainstream first person shooters like Call of Duty, for example, you have such linear map design, such linear levels where it's like go to this place, hold this area onto its real section.
And
You
the
have
story sucks like 8 out of 10 times.
like even really small things such as like you have moments in the game where you can't move, or in fact you don't actually. This is actually something I want to point out. You don't have any quick time events, and also on top of that, whenever you have important story beats in the game, you still have the ability to control your character. So whenever there's moments where you're supposed to focus on a particular thing, they don't like force you to look at them for the most part.
And the only time they take away control from you is when, quite literally, in the story, you have no control.
And
It's pretty cool.
But
I love that. I never thought of that.
Yeah, like and that's the reason why people always cite Cohen's masterpiece as the best portion of the game. And it's not for the superficial shit of like Cohen being goofy and a flamboyant character.
No, it's not.
The
It's
fucking
amazing.
music or anything, but which also is it's great shit. Don't get me wrong, but the level design in that area of the game is just mastercraft. Like that strip mall upstairs, downstairs section that you have to explore and take the pictures of the different people he wants. I'm absolutely floored by
I agree.
how fucking amazing that area of the game is. It's so good.
And it was funny. It's like I knew immediately. Like when I was playing through this level, I was like halfway through, and I like told everybody in Discord, I was like, guys, this Cohen level is like really, really fucking good.
Yeah.
And you were all like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's like going through
it's
that.
designed brilliantly. It plays to BioShock's like strengths to like the max, that area.
Like that area in particular epitomizes the idea of I'm sure that I've still not explored that entire area.
Yep.
Like it's just so extensive. It's so huge.
And again, you're like this like kind of like shopping area, right? So when you first get to that area, you're like walking through and you see these like displays and there's like health kits and like Eve needles and like ammo behind them and you're like, oh shit,
take
cool.
those.
And then you smash the glass and a fucking alarm goes off and you're like, oh shit. And it's like it's so cool because it's like I could do this and get punished for it, but I get fucking rewarded at the same time. It's I don't know. I love little things like that.
Yeah, that's a cool another mechanic. I noticed that too. It's like I saw the glass. I was like, "There's a plasmid behind the glass or something." I was like, "Should I don't have much health. Should I hit it?" I was like, "I'm
pull out
hitting
the
it."
wrench and whack
I'm
it
hitting
on the
it.
first try, and then the alarm goes off. And I'm like, what? What'd I do? What? Oh yeah, this is a real place that has real consequences. I forgot.
But no, there's a completely optional thing like when you're going through that strip mall where you'll come in this room and you'll see like these two lines of like these frozen bodies that are like posed, and you'll hear on the radio, how much is that dog in the window? It's kind of unsettling.
Yeah.
And there's this button behind the desk, and it leads you to a weapon upgrade station. And once you're done, one of the ice things will be right behind you.
Oh yeah, I remember
And
that.
then-
He's like sitting on the floor or something right behind you.
Yeah. And then you'll go back and like all those ice sculptures will be gone, and it's like completely optional. Could completely miss it, but it's just so like
Didn't even know
like
that was a thing.
what?
I
Yeah,
didn't even
you
know
could
that
not
was a
even know
thing.
it was a thing.
It's just I just find it crazy that like even talking about it now, there's so many things that like it's just insane how many little details, and that's not even a little detail. That's like that definitely benefits you in terms of playing that game. In terms of the weapon upgrades, it's very fucking important to upgrade your weapons. Definitely do that.
Oh
But-
yeah, that's a huge reward in that game. Those power to the people machines. It's so rewarding to find those.
Power to the players.
You just go for the play it.
Topical.
But like even when I was like watching back gameplay like a minute ago, like I pointed out something I'd never even noticed was like the little sister holes. You'll see like their eyes glow in them like sometimes when you pass them. It's like stuff like that I didn't even notice in my 2 playthroughs of the game.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah, and I love how there's an in-world explanation for why the little sisters, you can't kill them, and like splicers can't kill them. It's just little things like that. Like you hit them and they like glow, and you're like, oh, this is dumb. I can't kill the kid in the game. But it's like, you know, it's something like Skyrim. It's just like, no, you're not allowed to kill the kid. It's bad. But in
Invincible.
this game, it's like, no, they have very advanced regenerative properties that they literally heal faster than like Wolverine when they get hit. Like it's impossible to kill them.
And again,
That's
it's the
how
beauty
powerful
of
they are.
the story in this game. We were just talking about it with the Cohen guy. I think he fits so well into the story too of what a depraved artist would become in this world, and Everything has a story justification, and not just that, because some things can have story justifications, but is it really still well written? Is it still really well fully realized? And it is completely here. Everything comes full circle and works in tandem.
Something that Ken Levine said about the level design of BioShock and like just the general world. He's like, I don't like it when games just like artificially tell me I can't do this or I can't do that. And so like in BioShock, there's no like invisible walls or any bullshit like that. Like if you can't go to an area, it's clear that you can't go to that area. Like there's a reason why you can't. Like maybe the door's locked. There's always an explanation for it.
You'll have like a tunnel that's broken off, or like
and even then, a lot of the times when a door is locked to a section, you'll find that you'll actually be able to enter that door is actually unlockable from another route. Like you'll go through an area and you'll end up coming out of that door, but like there'll just be areas that's just impassable. Like it'll be a place that's been completely flooded under the ocean that you just cannot go in, and it's like it makes perfect sense because like the fucking airplane like destroyed like a good portion of like the area that you start in. Like there's areas that are just being completely destroyed by the airplane wreckage, like just crushing through it. So like there's perfect explanations for reasons why you can't go through certain areas and stuff, whereas in like certain games you'll have just like these invisible walls or the death barriers or what have you.
The Skyrim was a good example.
You like basically the point is that like when you go into an area and you finish the level, you feel like, wow, I didn't feel restricted at all in that area. I feel like I could have went anywhere I wanted to, and then BioShock Infinite came out, but we don't need to talk about that.
I find it insane.
We will get to that at some point in another discussion.
I find it insane what they were able to do. That they have a game that is so expansive, and yet you still feel so claustrophobic. You still feel like you're constantly under pressure. Where the game goes to great lengths to remind you that for as wide and expansive as these levels can be, a lot of the hallways are really constricted. A lot of the combat is very close quarters. You'll never feel like you can really breathe in this game.
It's funny because like it like you're underneath the ocean and you feel it. Yeah. You do. You feel like the pressure of it, like just that isolation, and it really just goes like it serves with how like the way the levels are designed. Like you always see like that there are like there's only windows keeping that are between you and the entire fucking ocean, and like these really narrow hallways as well with these doors, and it's just you feel like it's pretty oppressive actually. Like you always feel the pressure of the ocean on top of you, and it's something that like it's hard to explain, but it captures it beautifully.
Oh yeah, you're spot on. It's the pressure of the ocean, and it's the pressure of this creepy place, and it's the pressure of the whole story and the whole weight of everything, and it adds and it builds and it puts it on top of you. It's a lot to carry. It's a lot to carry. It's a lot to handle.
Like even down to the ambience, they just had everything down to a T. Where at any moment you feel like you can be attacked. At every moment in that game, especially in the harder difficulties, you're constantly on edge. Where you're like, I need to constantly be prepared for a fight. I need to constantly know where the nearest health pack system is. I need to know like if I need to get any vending machines. I need to know where they are in case they're on out of ammo, in case I have any encounters that I can't hack. It's constantly got you thinking. It's constantly got you just immersed is the only word I can use.
It's and it's very unique. Resident Evil is once again one of the only things that comes to mind that really hits these same beats.
Yeah, and like for me, like I told you, I play very conservatively, right? And I take like mental notes of like safes that I'll take the time to open, but I might be full on that ammo type, or I might be full in my wallet, so I'll run to a vending machine and I'll just buy like med kits or whatever I need. I'll just buy. I'll spend the money so I can grab the extra money out of the fucking safe, or I'll use that ammo type and then I'll double back and I'll grab whatever's out of that safe. And I just like I try to maximize my item management as much as
it's all about playing smart.
Yeah, and they really reward the player for doing so.
Can we also appreciate that it's one of the first it's one of the few times like I feel like I could say this about a video game, but like the album, like the music selection is better than like the composed music. Like the music that's always playing on the radio and it has like a slight distortion effect to it. It's like this music's very pleasant, but it's also kind of unsettling because of that like little distortion effect. And I feel like that's why the music fits so well, because that is rapture in of itself. It's beautiful, but there's like this
something off,
disturbing, unsettling, something off to it.
Yeah, it personifies rapture to a T.
Undertone,
it's
right?
Beautiful, but there's an eeriness to it, and it's just like
it's it's the utopia, a dream place. It's become more of a nightmare.
Yeah, I guess that kind of. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, like you guys are talking about like the utopia, and I was gonna get into about how like it's completely believable why this place exists, how it exists.
Oh yeah,
and the manner in which it.
Should we get into the story now then?
Yeah, I was gonna say that segues pretty nicely into the story.
It's just like it's incredible how, and also like not to dwell on it too much, but something that I did love was the audio logs and how. You could literally just listen to them while you were playing the game. It wasn't so intrusive where you had to like pause the game and go back and check a bunch of like intel that you've acquired from a bunch of missions.
Read some journal or something.
It was just so natural.
You don't have to listen to them because like the things presented to you, like you already know what's going to happen. But like having that extended context, like one of my favorite moments, like when I realized this game was really special, was I listened to this audio diary of like this clerk who was really insecure about the way she looked, and there was this plastic surgeon there, and she was talking about it was like, and like you could tell in her voice that she was very, very insecure, and she was like, "But it's okay because the doctor is going to fix me right up." And later on, you see like these ghosts, and it's not explained to you why you're seeing like these apparitions until later. In another audio diary, funnily enough, like you find out that the plasmids have effects on you. You start seeing apparitions. Like that's so fucking cool. But but you know, you see this ghost, and it's the same woman that was on the diary, and she's like banging on like the doctor's door, and she's like, "Look at me! Look at what you did to me!" And it's just like that is so fucking good. It's so good. Everything's so interweaved and connected, and it just. And the audio diaries are genuinely like I hate audio diaries. I hate them. I hate them in every other video game. I don't listen to them. But in this game, I wanted to listen to every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. You need to. It's not. You don't need to, but you almost feel like you need to know what happened here. You want to know what happened here. It's a need for me at least. Like I gotta listen to this. So many stories and games. I'm like, I don't care to read this. I don't care. But I care about BioShock. I feel like I need to get this because who knows what I'm gonna hear.
The foreshadowing for Frank Fontaine and all the audio logs, like, and with Peach Wilkins as well. Like, everyone's like terrified of Frank Fontaine. Like, they're like, people were like, you know, some of them like have like conspiracy theories that he isn't dead, and then some people are like, no, he is dead. He was like a martyr, or like some people were just terrified of him, like he's this fucking just ruthless like gangster, and like there's so much like build up to that character, and then like when you finally have the reveal, you're like, wow, that's fucking awesome. And like what a reveal it is too, by the way.
Which I should say for anybody listening, not that there is many people listening, but we're going to get into spoiler territory now, so if you haven't played the game, all 5 of us implore you, please play it, because it is...
Yeah.
I would argue... You don't want that twist.
Do yourself a favor.
Like, this is... I haven't played this game. I'm so invested in the story. From early on, I was so interested in every aspect of the game, where I was like, I constantly wanted more. Like, even whenever you finish the game, you're like, I still want to play more BioShock.
Oh, just wait until you get to 2. Wait, you're gonna, like... Oh, I'm so excited for you to play 2. But go ahead.
But it's just, like... I definitely implore you, please play this game, because it's one of those games where I wish I grew up playing, but I also... I'm glad that I played it now, because I can appreciate it so much. Like, having not played it when I was younger...
If you consider yourself a fucking if you consider yourself a fucking gamer, you're doing yourself a disservice by not playing BioShock. It is
Facts.
a once in a lifetime type of game. It is absolutely a masterpiece, and if you haven't experienced it, I really, really urge you to just give the first one at least a shot.
Like,
It's unlike anything that's out there. It really is.
It's such a brilliant investment because not only is it arguably one of the best games ever made, but on top of that, it has such replayability value where you can play the game over and over and over again at different levels of difficulty. You can try and mix up your playstyle through each playthrough. It's just so... There's just so much to it. I just, like...
And it's unique. The only thing I think it's similar is Prey. Like, that is, like, fundamentally very similar. I mean, obviously there's, like, System Shock, but that was before.
Yeah.
This game is just a timeless masterpiece that I would definitely implore you buy. And if you haven't heard the story or any of the twists and turns, I please play the game before listening to the rest of this because you'll definitely regret it if you have anything spoiled.
I wholeheartedly
Would
agree.
you kindly turn off this podcast and go play BioShock, please?
if
that?
you haven't already?
Would you kindly?
So, do you want to go through it in a linear, going from the plane crash, or?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, start from it.
I love we don't get any dialogue from our protagonist, Jack.
Apart from the
except for one line.
Bullshit
Yeah.
fat exposition drop.
Ding.
Son, you're gonna do great things. It's like, yeah, they were right, and it's just like that. It really informs the character once you know the twists, and like that line of dialogue really just hits different once you know like the ending and stuff. You're
Yeah,
like,
because
wow.
it seems really generic at first. It really it's like, oh god, this dialogue. But then they justify it later in the game, obviously with the twist, and you're like, oh, okay.
And like it's just brilliant, right? Because it starts you out, and you know the plane crashes, and you're like, oh, okay, well, what the fuck? What happened? Why? Man, the plane crashed. Oh fuck! It almost, if you have no context going into it, right?
Just coincidence.
The intro has completely different context to the player, where they think they've been in a plane crash, and they're like, I gotta swim to safety. I gotta survive. Oh my god. Oh, here's this like lighthouse nearby. I'll just
You're
swim
in the
there.
exact same headspace as Jack.
Yeah. And like and it's funny too because when the very first time I played BioShock 1, when the plane crashes and you're in the water, I like didn't know that I was able to play yet, and I was just kind of floating in the water looking at the fire, and I'm like, what's going on like with this cutscene? And I was like, oh, this is the game. I'm playing now. Oh shit, okay. And then you like fucking just that him swimming to the surface, and like you can hear him like he's like fucking like choking. Yeah, he's like barely makes it to the surface. Like that in itself is like very like BioShock like rapture feeling. Just him trying to get to the surface and he just barely fucking makes it by the skin of his teeth. Like I love that very much. That intro is brilliantly done.
It's a great point.
It sets it up as a very, very linear storyline. I mean, it sets up Rapture and it brilliantly shows us and like conveys what this world is very quickly. It's very beautiful at first, but then you see a guy's encounter with a splicer, and you're like, okay, this place is it's got some problems. But it sets it up as a very linear storyline at first. It's like this guy contacts you on the radio. He's like, would you kindly pick up the radio? And he's like, I need you to help me find my family. And it's like, all right, so that's the story of the game. I'm going to go through Rapture. I'm going to explore. I'm going to help this guy find his family. Obviously, it's not what transpires.
I'm gonna help him, and in turn, I'm also gonna get saved by helping this guy.
Exactly.
So what reason do I have to not help this guy?
Could
He's
we,
the only
like-
voice I've heard so far.
Do you mind if I just take us back a little bit first to that opening scene where you first see Rapture? Is one of the most beautiful scenes I've seen in a video game.
Agreed.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just
It blows your mind. You're looking at it and you're like, oh my god, where am I? Because like Carmen said, you're a guy who crashed. You're trying to get to safety, right? Like every other game, like get to safety. Here's the checkpoint and the waypoint. Go. And you get there and then you get greeted with this, and you're just like, what?
But also, just Andrew Ryan's justification for why this place exists,
Completely.
and like him explaining how he wants to just like defect from all of society's rules that they've set up, and it's funny to me because like the more I think about it, the more brilliant it is. And I was like I kept thinking to myself, why does he call it rapture if he hates God? And like the more and more I thought about it, I was like, oh, I get it. It's meant to be like a kind of irony because this is an underworld, and it's almost like he's mocking the people who believe in rapture. But there's even an added level of irony on top of that because he's playing the role of God himself by saying who can and can't come here.
Yeah, I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. Like, it really hits, man.
And it's like
it's so hard.
It really puts it into perspective for me that in that opening scene where you like, there's been people that have hacked it and like explored in and around the entire like city landscape. You can explore all of that. All of it is so detailed. And considering that this is a game that came out in 2007, it's fucking insane.
Yeah, that's incredible. Think about how much time has passed and everything that's happened since, and there's still nothing like this.
No.
But yeah, like, so the game sets itself up as like kind of a linear storyline, and you're like progressing, and you know, you're really starting to care about Atlas and his plight to save his family. He's talking about like what kind of happened here with Rapture.
Seems like a good, reasonable guy, right?
Yeah, and but then they kind of hint a little bit towards something being slightly off with him when you come towards the little sister situation, right? Like. Mm-hmm. And because the game pretty early on sets up the gameplay mechanic of choosing to either save or quote unquote save or harvest the little sister, and he's like, those things aren't human anymore, you don't need to feel bad about it. And it's like, and in a way you can see like what he's saying, but also there's something kind of off about it, you know? There's this doesn't feel right.
In the justification,
that feels evil.
The justification is fucking amazing too, right? Because you have Dr. Tenenbaum who you meet at this point in the story, and she's telling you like, you know, stay away from that little sister, don't touch her. And you know, Atlas is like, dude, that's not a little girl anymore. And it's so funny because he's like, that's not a little girl anymore thanks to Tenenbaum. And that's the woman that's there, and he's basically saying, yeah, she's the fucking monster, she turned them into that. So don't fucking listen to her. What the fuck does she know? She's the reason why they're even what they are. So don't fucking listen to her. They're not little girls anymore. Just, you need to survive down here, dude. And I'm going to help you survive. And the best way you're going to survive is if you take the atom from these little sisters.
It's a genius way of justifying what later in the game is clearly a moral wrong, but it's just a really genius way, and it also adds another layer on top of just how great of a manipulator Fontaine is.
It just, I loved how, like, through that segment, and through him saying about Tenenbaum being the reason as to why the little girls ended up the way that they did, and then through the later audio diaries where you hear the things that she's done.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any good or bad people in Rapture. Everybody's a moral grey. Like, everyone's has a reason. Flawed. Everybody has a reason.
And that's amazing, because that's more closely to real life. That's what I think. That's more realistic to how people really are.
They're not saying that there is no paragon of virtue. There is no like, this person's our savior. This person, like, every single person that lives in Rapture is flawed, which is so human. It's
also like the entire idea of Rapture itself as well. Like, on paper, it sounds amazing. He's like, you know, he wants to defect from society's, you know, rules, but in of that he becomes the rule itself. Like, he engages in the exact same thing that he criticizes.
Becomes the very thing he swore to destroy.
Yeah. But throughout the game, you know, you really start to care about Atlas's plight with his family, and eventually you come across the submarine that supposedly has his family inside of it.
Allegedly.
No, theoretically, his family is inside that submarine.
No, this is something that I like. Sorry to cut you off, Squid, but I love Atlas. Being an Irish person myself, I was like, finally I'm being represented in gaming, you know. very rarely does this happen, and
Moira.
Then whack him! The 1-2 punch!
give me a 1-2 punch. But there was that I remember very vividly, right? That submarine scene where the submarine explodes and his family's inside that submarine, and I remember asking all of you, was there a way to save his family? Did I fuck up? Like, was there a way that I could have went down there and like released it? Did I do something wrong? Should I not have pulled that switch? I was like, the whole time I was like, oh fuck, I fucked it up. I killed Atlas's family. What the fuck's wrong with me? What?
And not to jump ahead too much, but I love Ryan's dialogue there. He's just like taunting you. He's like, man, it's a shame that your friend can't hear you or see you from up here, and you can't warn him that there's agents working in the dark to take away everything he's ever loved. It's a damn shame, isn't it? And then like the music that plays after the fucking bathysphere blows up, and he's like, you thought you'd come down here and find all this, fucking loot my city. He's like, who the hell are you? Who do you think you are coming down here trying to take what's mine? Like, I fucking love that.
Yeah, he's like
awesome.
He's like freaking out in the beginning of the game, trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah,
Like, what are you, FBI? Are you this?
I
Which
love,
one of the bitches sent you?
I love the gradual
And-
realization throughout the game, but I mean, we'll definitely get into that as we go along. But that scene just, it ruined me. Where like the combination of the
I agree.
music, the like Kieran Atlas just completely broken by what's just happened, and I'm sitting there like the entire time. Your whole motivation up to this point has been, I want to get out of Rapture, but I also want to help this guy and his family because they're stuck. They don't need to go through all like this. This place is horrible. They need to get out of here. Let's try and help them, and then maybe we can all get out together. And the moment where that submarine goes off and they die, I'm like, fuck, what the fuck? Like,
I feel like one of the reasons you felt so affected into that was, once again, we were saying earlier, how they don't pull you out for a cutscene, or they don't take control away from you, or they don't stop to do this. You were in that moment in full control of your character watching that happen. So that leads you to be like, oh, could I have done something better? Could I have fixed this? That's so cool. That extra additive part to it.
Yeah, Carl Hanover, the guy who did Atlas's voice, the fucking range on that dude is fucking awesome. Like, he goes from the happy-go-lucky Irish guy to the fucking absolutely like distraught, screaming, distressed his family died, to fucking Frank Fontaine. Like the changes that guy can do with his voice, fucking awesome. Like, very underrated in my opinion.
Sure.
But in terms of the story, I mean, from that point forward, the next very big... what?
Wouldn't the next thing be like the plasmids, right?
Yeah, you can talk about the plasmids.
Because, like, you know, he fucking, Atlas is, like, telling you to... He's like, listen, if you're going to survive down here, you're going to need to get a plasmid. He's like, nah, he's like, I know it sounds kind of wild. I know you got the weight of the world on your shoulders and everything's kind of... You're kind of fucking terrified. But he's like, if you're going to survive, you need to take one of these. And you fucking take it, and Jack fucking just... He starts losing it, man. 'Cause as Atlas puts it, he's like... The entirety of your genetic code is being rewritten. Stay calm. Stay calm.
Why do you have like a
Jack's like,
voice?
God damn it! What's happening to me? He's just like fucking freaking out.
I love the idea that like Atlas is sitting watching you on the cameras, and then you like fall over a balcony, like a story onto the next floor, and he's like, "Oh fuck, he's dead."
And his neck snapped.
My ace in the hole.
My ace in the hole.
And he's fucking dead.
Yeah. I love that. I love that little moment. It really shows. And then he's like, you know, he says like your genetic code is being rewritten, and then you wake up. You start to wake up and you see fucking the splicers, and you're like, oh god, is this what fucking leads to that? Like, if I keep doing this, does it lead to that? I'll become that.
Crack it.
Fucked. Yeah. So, anyway. Moving on, it's a good moment that we missed on, but yeah, it's a very
defining moment into bringing him into the story and into the world and introducing mechanics again. In a way, it doesn't feel video gamey, right? It feels like you need that to survive.
Well, it's because the plasmids, it's like what was ultimately the downfall of Rapture. I mean, like the plasmids have a very, very interesting reason for existing, And like you hear like all the experimentation through like the video diaries, and you'll even see where like they created certain ones. And so it's just all very well integrated within the world, and it's done very well through environmental storytelling of like why these plasmids are here. But in terms of what happens next in the story, you kind of you trot along, seeing all different parts of Rapture. Then you stumble upon Cohen.
Oh yeah,
Chad.
Cohen. And you know what's so funny to me is that like in any other game where they just completely halt your pace of heading towards the main goal and having you go on this like what would seem like kind of an unimportant side quest almost, it would irritate me. But this one, it's like it's the best part of the game. It's insane.
It feels interweaved into the main story. It doesn't feel like a bullshit side quest. It feels like this is a very integral part of the characters in the story. What happens to people who are in this place?
It begins to put it into perspective though about how like he seems like whenever he talks about the fight between Atlas and Ryan, he's very much talking about it from a sense of is there not anything else good on the radio? It used to be that you could get something good on the radio at one point here. He talks about it so tired. He's like, I'm bored of this conflict between these two. Let's do something creative here, and that's what that mission in particular, that entire map, it's so creative in the sense that it. Like I know we've already spoke about it, but it's just so expansive. There's so like it's so detailed. And for as much as you're taken away, like, it gets to a point that during that mission, you forget about Atlas, you forget about Ryan. And then you get back to...
Yeah, it's just picture time.
Yeah, you're sitting taking the pictures, you have the part of the mission where, like, I don't know anybody that doesn't like it, but you're sitting shooting splicers with a shotgun, and you're sitting listening to Waltz of the Flowers by your guy in the background, and you're like, oh my god.
That was a moment where I was just like, this game is bliss.
I've never felt video game bliss like it.
It's like, that moment in the game is just so fucking great. Can't praise it enough. But, you know, in the grand scale of things, like what happens with Sandra Cohen is not all too important with the storyline, but you don't mind it. Like, you don't mind that, like, you kind of, like, and it's weird too, because it's like it's almost like right before the climax of the game, and then Sandra Cohen was like, "No, stop all that. We're gonna go on an art adventure," and it's like I love this.
That's one of the things that makes this special, right? I think that when a story or a world or just anything like that is special is when it doesn't matter what the main story is or what that is. Can I have fun doing something else? Can I have something fun in here? Is there things that are going on minus the main story or whatever stuff is going on there? Because Cohen, yeah, he's just his own guy, right? Some former musician and art guy who's lost his mind. But that's in the context of this world and what's going on. That's such an interesting character to put under the microscope and figure out what's wrong with this guy, what happened, what's he doing, and I think that's such a cool little extra part that it only enhances the main story and the atmosphere of the world and just what's going on.
Like, going back to how dynamic that is, though. Sorry, but there's like you see whenever he appears at the end of that mission, where you've got all of the photos that he wants you to get, and he appears, you have the option to attack him instantly. So you can go over and you can instantly start fighting Cohen. You can kill Cohen. But if you leave it, if you let him talk to you for a second, what he'll do is he'll give you, I think is it another plasmid?
It's an upgrade.
So he'll bring you over to a glass case, and he'll say, "This is for like my, this is as a thanks." And then there's this other chest where, "Oh, this is for my greatest followers." So I believe that later on in the game, you have an apartment that you can go into, Sandra Cohen's apartment, where there's a couple dancing, and if you kill the couple, he comes down from his room, and you can kill him, and then you get a key, and you can go back to that area, and then unlock this chest. So this is a completely separate area. I think it's like Apollo Heights or something like that. far down the game, and you can go back to this area and unlock this chest, and it really
Amazing.
rewards you. Like you get was it three med kits? I can't remember exactly what's in it. You get a shit ton of cash as well. I love how detailed little things like that are, because if you were to kill Cohen, you would have no way of knowing that apartment would be locked later down the line, because he would never be able to come out of it in that later mission. It's just like little things like that I really appreciate.
But so another small moment that I think I need to bring up, because it plays to the twist of the game, is so I believe a little bit. I think it was during Cohen's masterpiece, actually, when you run into this. It's when you go into like this kind of like burlesque area, and you find out that Andrew Ryan had a sexual relationship with essentially a stripper, and you see like the apparition of like this girl talking to Andrew Ryan, and you open this door and you find her corpse, and there's an audio diary, and you listen, and you find out that she was pregnant and sold the embryo. And then Andrew Ryan killed her for once he found out about it. It's a small thing, but it's important for what's coming.
But something like that again in the overarching story could very easily go under the radar. You very easily may not think anything of that, but
Sure.
I love how you can piece it all together at a particular point later on the line.
Oh yeah.
So
Should we
Still
get
all
to
these
the
interesting little things.
should we get to the twist now then?
I'm trying to think.
We could.
Is there anything
Like
else
There.
in
Josh,
between
you were talking about like with Cohen, like just like the optional shit. Like there's like another like little one. Like there's like a fucking gene tonic that's like up high on like the stands where you could watch his like his plays and whatnot, and the musical entertainment. There's like those big stands that are up high, and like if you platform your way over to it, Cohen like has like a little line of dialogue. He's like, what a brilliant display of athleticism. Like he just like it's completely optional. Like you don't have to do that, but like if you do it, he'll like even have a line of dialogue about it, which I just thought was like cool. I just love little things.
Cool
like
in this game. They don't force you to do very much, right?
I think
No.
There's some forcing into the story. It takes part of the main story, the idea of choice and stuff like that. But when you're actually playing the game, it's all up to you.
It's like that part where the guy is playing the piano, and like
Hello.
you could go over to the piano before it explodes and shoot the guy, and then Cohen's like, "Oh, that happened quicker than I expected."
yeah, if you shoot him, because like normally he would just kill him himself. He's like, damn it, Cohen, let me out of here, and he just fucking blows him up. But if you kill him before that, he's like, that was quicker than I thought. But I was getting sick of him anyway, so no big deal.
I think Cohen is so cool.
What we're trying to
That's
say
exactly
is that
what I would think an
that's
entertainer
part about
would
this
be.
game.
I would definitely say that's the best mission, at least. I think the best part of this game. The best part of this game is probably the story, and the best part of the story is probably the twist. Now,
Yes.
Squid, I'm gonna let you take center stage here, since you're an actor. Take us through the lead up to the twist.
Okay, so you're traversing through these this little air duct, and you fall into this room, and you see this giant board of all these faces of all these characters that you've interacted throughout the game. And on the board, it's just painted in bright red, "Would you kindly?" And you walk up, and there's 2 audio diaries. And I believe on the board, it's like all of these people that you've interacted with and like heard in audio diaries,
Yeah,
such as like
Jasmine
Suchong,
Jolie, the stripper lady,
and
Ryan.
they all lead back to Fontaine, I believe, is the main connection. And in the audio diary, you hear Suchong talking to a little boy who has a puppy,
Oh,
and he was like, "Oh, did you just find this puppy?" And the boy's like, "Yeah, you know." And he's like, "Snap that puppy's neck for me." And the boy's like, "What? Snap that puppy's neck for me." And it's just like, I'm not going to. And he's like, "Snap that puppy's neck, would you kindly?" And then you hear the snap, and the audio diary ends. And at that point, you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And then in the second audio diary, you hear a little bit about mind control, and that's when you start piecing it together. And then you fall right into the next room, and Andrew Ryan is there behind a glass, and he's talking
golf.
about the difference between a man and a slave while playing golf. And he presents the question to you. He's like, "What is the difference between a man and a slave?" And he says, "A man chooses and a slave obeys." And then he starts using this phrase, "Would you kindly?" after giving you certain directions, and you have no control. It's the one moment in the game where the game takes away control from you, and Jack starts doing it involuntarily. And it's like, it's common, it's such a powerful phrase, isn't it? And then it flashes back to every moment where Atlas used this phrase on you, and it's at every pivotal point in the story where you're doing something. And it's at this moment where the entire game flips the entire genre of FPS storytelling on its head. And it's like, oh, in reality, you're just kind of a slave to the mechanics of a video game. And in his final moments, Andrew Ryan is like, "Go ahead, obey your actions, you're going to kill me anyways." And he encourages him, and you start beating him over the head slowly with a golf club. And he's telling you each time with each swipe with the golf club, obey, and then you finally kill him. And then Atlas once again is like, "Would you kindly enter in that genetic key into the machine?" And at that point, he transforms from Atlas to Andrew Fontaine, and he becomes this character, this almost Fontaine, sorry. And he transforms and becomes what is essentially what was a myth to people. Didn't even know if he was still around or not.
He just starts laughing.
And in one fell swoop, everything throughout the game, you were just conned by the greatest con man of Rapture.
You just got played.
You just got played. And you find out that you were the product of an experiment. You find out that you are Andrew Ryan's son. And you are the son of that stripper that sold away the egg, and Suchon experimented on you and created what is essentially like this genetically altered human, and that's why you don't, suffer from the plasmids and so forth.
Yeah, Tenenbaum and Suchong both did.
Was it not something silly that you were like,
and what's so great? Hold on, one more thing. I'm almost done. So what's so great is that what I love is that in the room where you find out that you are brainwashed is the same room where Andrew Ryan found out himself who you were.
Yeah.
Where he pieced it all together is where you also piece it all together.
Which is one of the things I love about it, particularly the mission in Hephaestus. I'm probably butchering that, by the way. He very slowly, Andrew Ryan very slowly starts to piece it together, where he'll say things like, do you not think it's a bit of a coincidence that a man falls from a plane and then finds himself in Rapture? And it was like, what was it like? It sounds a little less like a coincidence to me, and more so that it was planned and something along those lines. It's just throughout.
You also have these flashes of your family throughout the game. You even have a flash of a baby being experimented on without of context.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's very interesting because a lot of people would just be like, "It's the video game. I just followed what the video game wanted me to do." But that's kind of what it's almost making fun of in a way, or being like, you're a slave and you're just doing this, you're doing that. Like, isn't this a coincidence that it happened? You didn't even think of that, and a lot of people wouldn't even think of that because they're just following the game or whatever.
It pokes
But
fun at the
it's almost like a
whole.
deconstruction of what a story should be in a game.
It pokes fun at the entire.
It shouldn't be so
genre.
forced.
It pokes fun at the entire genre by saying, in all of these games, you have but an illusion of choice. The entire time it's
no choice really.
do this thing. You have an operator in your ear saying, "Go to this place, shoot these people, do this, do that, do this." In this game in particular, you really get punished through the ending by what you've chosen to do, whether or not you've chosen to listen to what your operator is telling you to do. If you with regards to the little sisters, if you harvest,
I wanted to talk
things,
about the ending.
I
That
mean,
was one of the things that really stuck with me back then. And I picked the harvest, and oh my god, that shit hurt. I felt like an evil human being.
It's so brutal, so it is.
I felt like shit.
I've only seen the actual, I've seen a clip of it, and I can't put myself in the position of somebody that actually got that ending, because I'm like, imagine you,
Depressing.
you get, that is so brutal, that ending, considering how you've played through the whole game, you've done what you've been told to do, and you get brutally punished for it.
So many games I kind of play the evil role, but after BioShock, that kind of ruined my. I don't want to be that person. The way that cutscene made me feel, I don't want to feel like that.
The moment after Fontaine reveals himself to you, and the little sisters save you, you try they lead you to Tenenbaum's sanctuary area. They it's really cool because depending on your choices that you've made in that area. The you first of all, just from a basic level, you look at the little sisters and you're like, oh, these are they're normal. I've been killing
Kids.
little girls this whole time.
Yeah.
And then also on the flip side, it's oh, well, I've been saving them, so this actually is a good thing. I've been saving them. And then depending on that, if you have the good choices or the bad choices, it'll change the dialogue of the little sisters in that area. So if you're a fucking dickhead, they'll be like, oh, don't go near him. He's evil. He's mean. Or if you're good, they're like, oh, he's
our savior.
He's gonna save us. He's good. He's a good guy. And there's just little changes in dialogue with that, which I think is really cool. But
it's amazing.
I love going in there, even if you've been evil. You look at them, you're like, I'm a fucking monster. I've been
that's what I was trying to say.
My own game this whole time.
And the flip flop of those two endings, right? One of them makes you feel like a monster, and the other one makes you feel like a blessed angel savior or something like that.
But even going on about the little sisters a little bit more, I love how the interactables in that area, if you eat their food or if you take their items, they're like, hey, that's mine.
Yeah, that's funny.
My toy.
It's my food. And then you can eat a second one as well. But and then after that area, I think it is there's something else that I would like to talk about is the moment where you have all of the plasmids get mixed up after you have... So Frank Fontaine basically gets your heart to stop beating pretty much through one of the commands.
Busto.
What was it? What's it called?
Code
Yellow.
Yellow.
Yes, Code Yellow.
Code Yellow. And you're like, oh...
Yellow.
All of a sudden your health starts going down?
That's after he finds out that Tenenbaum helped you break the mind control of the would you kindly bullshit. So
that also doesn't make sense with Burial at Sea at all.
With your egg salad.
She's been messing with your egg salad.
Screw the burial.
Yeah, they fucking... I love that because he's like, oh, would you kindly go get stepped on by a big daddy? And then he's just like... I said,
what?
Would you kindly go get stepped on by a big daddy?
What?
He's like, why isn't it working? And then he's like, you had... I think he calls her Frau Kraut or something like that. She's German. It's you had old Frau Kraut messing around with your egg salad, huh? I fucking love that. And then he does Code Yellow and Jack just has a fucking... spasm.
That section is probably talk about a feeling of claustrophobia where your health is constantly going down. I didn't know at the time whether or not that meant that your health would just completely like finish. So I didn't realize know if that would actually kill you or not. So on that mission itself, you have the option to go to Apollo Heights. I was like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna fight Fontaine at this point, so I'll go over there. I lost a shit ton of health, like trying to go through this area with no health, and then I come back and I'm like, basically getting one tapped by like rosies and stuff at this point, and I think whenever you get it's like a chemical formula that stops the mind controller from Fontaine, and then it messes up all of your plasmids, was also something that I really appreciated, because at that point you have no control, so it randomly selects what your plasmids are. The reason why I appreciated that so much was it completely undermines your like how you've been playing the game up until this point. If you have a particular playstyle where you give them the old 1-2 punch, if you have like if you have a layout of plasmids, the game basically goes, fuck you, you're using all of them now. And it's like, again, it just goes to show the diversity of the gameplay of all the plasmids, where you can use all of them, and all of them are, I would argue, pretty equally effective in a lot of areas.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's just, I
And
love
like that makes you feel like uncomfortable, right? You're already kind of uncomfortable because of the situation and what's going on, and then they take away your bread and butter, right? And you're just like, oh, well, wait a second here.
Yeah, and then once you get all better, like Fontaine's starting to get a little like nervous. He's like, okay, this fucker's
Wait a
still
second.
coming. He's still fucking pushing. So I think he even says at one point, he's like, if you keep, he's like, last chance, kid. You pack it in now, I'll leave this dump to you and Frau Kraut. You keep coming, Rapture's a fish tank. And like, he's just like trying to pull. He's like just trying like everything to try to get you to stop and talking about fucking Mother Goose. I love that. And I really love how he makes it a point to say, he's like, I've never spliced in my entire time of being in Rapture. However, I'm doing it now and it fucking feels great. He's like, I got all the fucking atom I could ever want in the entire city flowing into me right now. He's like, I got the atom flowing into me, kid. You think you got power? You're 20 watts. I'm the lights on Broadway. Like, it's
The
so
ultimate,
fucking funny.
I love that so
he
much.
decides, like, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna beat this fucking freak.
But the thing is, and I guess it's kind of a criticism, I wish, right, up to that point where you, after you've killed Ryan and after you've put the genetic code into the machine and you've basically handed Fontaine Rapture on a plate, you haven't got any choices left in the game, really. Which is something that I was kind of, I felt a little bit, I would have loved to have that, only for the fact that in the entire game, even Frank Fontaine to an extent isn't completely, like, you can kind of understand where he's coming from. Like,
Yeah.
He's not
sure.
this, like, talk about, like, grey characters, he's not this, like, he kind of gets comically bad guy, the comical bad guy at the end of the game, but up until that point, he's still quite, like, he talks about you quite, like how a father would talk to a son, which he basically kind of is to an extent. I think he refers to you, like, as, like, having to put a puppy down or something like that. But you have Tenenbaum, who is a really fucking morally reprehensible cunt, who's, like, experimented on little children, who's experimented on yourself, and there's a setup where he kind of says that, like, you know the part where you become a big daddy? He sets up about, this isn't, like, you can't reverse this. Like, she's experimented on you even now. And at that point, I was like,
Yeah.
shit, is she going to turn on me? And I really wanted to see that in the game where I wanted, like, not that the game needed it, which it didn't, it's still a brilliant game, but I would have liked that extra slice where it takes it one step further, and it goes, even the people that you are rewarded for trusting will turn on you in Rapture, because that is what Rapture is at that point. Like, everybody's out for themselves.
That's the story, and that's the people.
But you have no reason to trust Tenenbaum. It's genuinely just a case of her going, yeah, just trust me. Atlas or Fontaine, the entire game, he has looked out for you. Like, even whenever you listen to Fontaine at the end of the game, Fontaine's sitting telling you, I've helped you. You would have died in that bathysphere at the start of the game if it wasn't for me.
Built, I set you topside, I called you back, showed you what you was capable of.
Like
He's
like,
just like,
that
yeah.
isn't family,
He's like,
I
if
don't
you
know
don't
what
call
is.
that family, then I don't know what is. And it's just like, yeah. I mean, I think part of him really. I mean, he never had a family. He literally says, he's like, maybe I will get one of those families one day. He's like, that fake family was it was good, but it holds you back. He's like, but maybe after all this is said and done, maybe I will get a family.
It's a twisted man.
There's a good audio diary early on in the game. I think, like Olympus Heights, maybe. Like, you find there's a fucking what it's the one where he's talking about like, he's like, these people come to Rapture thinking they're going to be captains of industry, but they all forget that somebody's got to scrub the toilets. Yeah, like that audio diary is great because it really informs his character a lot. And he's like, I hand these mugs a cot and a bowl of soup. They give me their lives. Who needs an army when I got Fontaine's Home for the Poor? And
you have
it informs his character so much, and it's not even like a main part of the story. It's like, that's
God, I'm so excited to talk about Bioshock 2 because they really expand upon that idea in that game, and I'm excited for that.
But you have that one area in the game which I didn't even see until I'd nearly completely explored the entire area, where you have Fontaine's orphanage, I think it's called, or Home for Little Sisters or something like that, where you can quite clearly see how he's manipulating the landscape of Rapture to go, like, he didn't have to do a lot to get Rapture to turn on Andrew Ryan. He really didn't. And he, like, you can so easily see how a civil war would start there, where you have Andrew Ryan, a guy who preaches an ideology that is entirely anti-God, and then supersedes God. And he, like, in that vacuum, puts himself in that vacuum where he becomes the god of Rapture. He becomes the be-all and end-all, and you have an entire society that's came here to reject that idea. And it's amazing how the downfall of Rapture kind of came about in that sense.
Yeah, the idea of Rapture, I mean, I think a lot of people would want to escape from what they're stuck in and what the world they're in and stuff like that. And it's a good, interesting thing to be like, hey, wouldn't you want this? Wouldn't you want to live like this? But the thing is, when you look deeper into how it was created and cultivated, it's fundamentally flawed in so many ways. And that begins with Ryan being on the top.
It's the one thing that I love about this is it's kind of a commentary on kind of humanity in that sense, where
I'd go to Rapture right now.
You'll even now, but it's like a commentary on you're never gonna have a utopia because people are fundamentally flawed. So wherever that utopia is, people are gonna tear that shit apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
That's a beautiful thing to say. That's so well done.
and the
That a
fact
game can express that so profoundly.
in a game that was made in 2007.
Yeah, my favorite thing about Rapture is how realistically it collapsed. Because one of the big weaknesses of a basically an ANCAP society is, well, what if a malicious actor just infiltrated it and just started to turn, because capitalist societies do have winners and losers. They have the people who scrub the toilets, and they have the people who are the top 1%, and that's going to build resentment.
But that's not what the idea of utopia
So it's not-
is, though.
Yeah.
The idea of utopia, the whole draw towards Rapture is reject the norms, come here, and everybody will be on top. And that's why I feel like Fontaine is so profound in this game, because he points all of the hypocrisy out. He's actually not like, he does a lot of bad shit, but he's not talking nonsense. The entire game, he's dead right.
I think that's what makes him a good villain. Is that he is definitely a malicious actor, and and a lot of the downfall of Rapture is mostly on him,
Yeah.
but at the same time, he is also fundamentally not incorrect.
If it wasn't,
Yeah,
but
that's so cool.
if it wasn't Fontaine, it
The
would have been someone else. And
Yeah.
that's what the
I mean,
beauty of
he
this
like,
was.
and it's like you said, like he clearly has like some sort of like feelings for Jack. You know what I mean? Like he views him as a son in some weird way. He's like, he's like, you're the closest thing I ever had to a son. And he even tells him during that speech that I was quoting, like he says, like, yeah, all that shit that you thought you had. He's like, I dreamed that up and I put that inside your head. He's like, I didn't have to do that, but I gave that to you because gave you a little something to hold on to through all that. Like he didn't have to do that, but he did it.
Yeah, he's not completely wrong, and that's what's perfect. He does turn a little evil at the end, right? It's still not the cliche. I hate everything. I'm gonna burn the world down. It's still a reasonable, understandable reason for why he is evil. I wouldn't even say he's like evil, right? I feel like that's too strong of a word.
But you also
Right, I mean-
have like even with
No, he's
Andrew
not.
Ryan-
He's not evil, which is my favorite thing about him.
Exactly.
He's a pragmatist ultimately.
But even
idealist.
with Andrew Ryan though, where he tries to destroy Rapture on I think like 2 occasions whenever he knows that you're coming for him, it's completely believable that he would do that because I'm like, this guy is so spiteful that he would rather Rapture goes down before he hands the reins over to Fontaine.
You hear that, Atlas? You can kill me, but you will never have my city.
Well, it's one of those audio diaries when he buys a plot of land and he turns it into like a forest.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a beautiful forest or like a garden or something.
People said they're entitled to it.
And the government's like, oh well, we're gonna have to turn this into a national park because it's considered an area of natural beauty, so you can't do what you want with it. And so he just burns the entire forest down before handing the land over to the
Yeah,
government. I
Ryan's
just
awesome.
love that line. He's just like,
So I burned it.
yeah, so I burned it to the ground.
Which
Damn.
which
I love this
completely
guy.
explains the philosophy of this man who would sooner destroy that which he's built and loves than give it over to somebody else. That's how
Yeah.
facetious this guy is. That's how power hungry Andrew Ryan was.
And that's
He's
what
really
led Rapture
understandable.
to fall to begin with is greed.
I don't think he's, or at least I don't know. I wouldn't call him power hungry as
I would.
such.
He seems very in love with the idea of Rapture and what it means to him and how
Yeah,
he's
'cause-
created it. And I don't know if this comes from I don't know exactly how it started, but it almost comes across as he's he's the good man with the ideal who's going to change the
Yeah.
world and he's
Yeah.
going to save everyone and
But
he's going to
then
come
he
with this
ended
brand
up-
new thing. And
And
he
he's
got so into this
greedy to the
idea and it
idea.
failed and
But
it
he's
broke
not-
him.
He's greedy of that, like having that and it being completely his, which is ironically enough what led Rapture to fall itself.
He's the only one that
he's
can
like the
trust.
Thanos.
He was so
archetype,
infatuated
sort of.
with the idea of Rapture.
He's like, nobody has the will to do it, but I do, so I'm gonna do it. And then it becomes, he becomes more greedy after it's been done.
Yeah, it starts to fall apart right on him, his dream. That's what happens to a lot of these good people who are idealists who want to change the world, right? Their ideas and their perfect world is shattered in front of their face, and they just have to pick up the pieces, and it usually doesn't go so well.
But the thing is even as Rapture was slowly getting destroyed, he didn't Atlas still Atlas basically fucked up all of Rapture, and yet Andrew Ryan didn't really do a terrible lot about it afterwards. He just kind of went, yeah, sure, that'll do. As long as I'm on top, that's all that matters, and that's where I get the impression that he's power hungry, because once that Civil War's over, once Rapture's destroyed, you still have Andrew Ryan in control of everything. He doesn't seem to try and rebuild anything. He just kind of leaves it. It's like, I still have everything that I want.
Yeah, he seems a little insane and maybe a little mentally, emotionally broken.
But this, you see, whenever I talk about masterpieces in games and masterpieces in story in general, I'm very hesitant to use words like that because I don't want to be I don't want to come across as some people I guess maybe at the Ackman to an extent, where some things come across as very hyperbolic, like you don't necessarily mean the things that you're saying. But
I agree.
I can't praise Bioshock enough, honestly.
Yeah, you don't want to call shit. You don't want to throw that term around because when something like Bioshock comes around, you call it a masterpiece, then it like devalues it almost.
Yeah, these things need to have a special classification almost. And I have that problem with games and movies and TV shows, and like it's the same thing. But I think Bioshock, you definitely have to put it into the masterpiece, if not, I mean, at the least, like at least it's a very special and unique and influential game.
Bioshock's
But
the
should we get to the ending
oh, I mean,
or the endings rather?
well, Squid, do you want to give us the ending that you got?
Well, so I harvested every child I saw.
Hell
Oh
yeah!
god,
Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
too dark.
And, so in the bad ending, it's like I'm kind of drawing a blank, but it's like you defeat Fontaine in kind of a limp dick boss fight. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Fuck.
I don't think anyone cares for that boss fight too much.
Nah,
It's not particularly great.
I would
But
say
essentially, you become you become yourself as well. What Andrew Ryan was, funnily enough,
for worse.
and Fontaine as well, where you suddenly want to have all the power. You are the reason why Rapture fell, and so in a way, if you choose to harvest the little sisters, the game shows you in its ending you just became another product of Rapture, and that's why I think both endings are honestly,
So profound.
you could argue they're both just as impactful as the other in one
Oh,
way,
yeah. They both make you feel.
because they both tell you, they both have something to tell you, and but that was the ending I got. I of
And I
course
think doesn't
watched.
Tenenbaum like narrate it a little bit, and
So
the
you
more
have,
the more Sister Harvest, the more like harsh her narrative is.
so you
Yeah,
have
she's
like I think it's 3 different audio things from Tenenbaum where if you harvest none, she speaks very softly and she's like very nice and caring. If you harvest a few, she's like quite solemn and like upset, but she's not harsh. If you harvest all of them, she talks to you like you are a fucking monster.
Or a piece of shit.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Yeah, and I got that. I got Tenenbaum laying on me this evil wordplay. Jeez.
the
There's a
ending.
huge incentive in that game to fucking harvest. Honestly, like I really like that choice. It's like, do you harvest, get more Atom, thus upgrading your plasmids even more and becoming more powerful, or do you save them, take the Atom penalty, and hopefully the little sisters will repay you as you go?
Yeah.
Which you have no way of
You
knowing
don't know
that
if that's
will
gonna happen.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they do.
Exactly. That's why it's like, oh, maybe it's like I'll take the good route, I guess, and maybe it'll pay off.
From my perspective, after getting that bad ending, I've never wanted to harvest a little sister again. Like that's how impactful that ending was to me personally in the whole story. I never wanted to do it again because I
I
felt
went
like
through
a
all
literal
of
piece of
Bioshock
shit.
2. I went through all of Bioshock 2 not harvesting a single little sister.
So,
All right,
never
it really
pictured
impacts you.
Subject Delta
Like
harvesting.
Jesus.
That
Yeah.
dude is so
I didn't.
fucking. He just loves everything.
have you?
I didn't harvest anybody. I'm too nice.
Where did I? That was actually through Fungus's
Whoever.
character. I'd like whenever me and Meme were watching it, and Fungus had the option to harvest or save a little sister. And he chose to save it. And we were like, "That's not something you
What?
would do. This is like it's terrible
Yeah.
writing."
That was funny. Like with the first option, with the first like option that they're just like, oh, we all know what Fungus is gonna do. I
I was
throughout
blindsided that he
that
chose
when
to
you were all
save it.
saying that, I was like, they don't know that I don't kill kids.
I was so blindsided by that. I was like, wait, but and then you come out with the line of dialogue. Yeah, you see, Fungus doesn't kill women or children. Fast forward to him playing Red Dead 2, and he's killing a bunch of women in bars, and I'm like, that is consistent.
Well, have you ever considered that those women deserved it?
But
Both endings of this game are beautiful and impactful.
So
The
you guys
good
have
ending
all
hits the feels.
seen the good ending, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
I got the bad ending and I watched the good ending after.
The good
And I was like,
ending.
I
I'm
got the
out.
good ending.
You see, actually achieving the good ending, it's so fucking heartwarming. Where you have
Exactly.
you send the little sisters to the surface, and you allow them to go and live a life, and they get married, they get jobs, and then after everything that they've been through, whenever you're on your deathbed, they all come and like come to you and hold your hand as you like seemingly die.
What
It's so
what I love about this, what I love is that it is essentially Jack being becoming a man after having broken like the spell. He chose, like throughout the game, you chose to save them. All right, and after you find out that your memories of a family were just planted, very beautifully narrated by Tenenbaum, you finally got what you wanted after all of this, and that was a family. And it finishes on that shot of all the little sisters holding your hand on your deathbed, and it hits. It really
Beautiful
does.
shot too.
See,
Which,
even talking about it now, I'm shivering. Like it's
By the way,
Straight up.
I guess we didn't really talk about the bad ending. What actually happens? Jack leads an army of splicers to the surface, where they find nuclear weapons on a submarine, and I think you can assume what would happen after that.
you basically turn Earth into Rapture.
Yeah, they just wreak havoc on.
Boy, the whole fucking.
I know. I
world.
don't really understand that ending.
Yeah,
Well, like,
neither do I.
it's a bit of a stretch from harvesting little sisters to starting World War Three.
So is the in-game explanation for it that you had so much atom that you kind of went a bit insane, or because that would be the only
No.
thing that I could justify? Because if
I don't
you, like-
remember if Jack is the one who actually like does that. All I remember is Marine like comes
So-
and then splicers just pull up and start going wild.
I think the explanation is that, the whole time, if you tried to leave, there was basically no way to leave Rapture.
Mhm.
So once Jack had the keys to Rapture, he just said, "Fuck it, do whatever you want," and they fucking went to the surface.
Yeah.
and they fucking killed everybody.
It's like a submarine went to go investigate the plane crash, and then all the splicers hopped on that.
They saw the bathyspheres popping up like all over the place, and they're like, "Oh, what's in there?" And then they open them, and the splicers
Splicer,
fucking
oh.
pop out and start fucking everyone up because they're way more advanced.
I just
like,
watched the bad
physically.
cutscene now, and it's so funny when the bathysphere opens up because a spider slicer just leaps like 50 feet up into the air
Yeah.
out of this bathysphere, and it drops down out of the sun like a fucking Stuka.
Oh.
Yeah, could you imagine just these submarines pop up in the ocean one day and they open them up and there's these genetically modified humans just jumping like fucking hundreds of feet in the air and like
hoops for
murdering people?
hands.
It's like, oh my
Oh.
god.
Yeah, that's actually a good point you just made. Like how different and more advanced splices are than the average human.
Oh yeah.
So
They
that
would-
like
they would
Because to-
fuck
to-
us up.
Because to Jack, you can just towards the end at least, if you get the right things, you can just crack a splicer's head open with a wrench.
it's
But is it-
definitely like it's
like,
even
the-
explained in game why you survive all those encounters through like how you're genetically modified. I think you reach the physical age of like I think it's like 20 by the age of 3. Am I right in saying?
I think Jack is 4 in the timeline.
Which is insane.
Yeah, because he's fucking huge. And he's just cracking people's skulls open with wrenches and
Yeah.
That
blasting them to
genetic
pieces with a
modification.
shotgun.
Frank Fontaine said it best. He is a freak.
It's like you see the whole like I think the downfall of Rapture in particular was it was the bringing the plasmids and bringing Atom into the city really fucked everything up. And one of the things that I was very curious early on was why like the little sisters are really fucking creepy. What are they and why are they here? And then whenever you figure out that they are actual little girls taken from families to like basically stick needles into dead people and suck out all of the atom from them so that it can
Yep.
be recycled, that was fucking brutal. You have you have an audio dialogue from like a couple of parents, I think, where they're talking about their daughter whenever they seen her crawl out of a vent, and I'm like trying
the
to put
Russian
Yeah.
couple, right?
I think so, and I'm like trying
Yep.
to put myself into that environment where like you see your daughter with this fucking big stinking golem thing, and you can't get near your own daughter because you'll get fucking crushed. I think the couple ended up killing themselves. I think there's another scene later on in the game where
Yeah,
there's like
their dead bodies are right next to the audio
They
tape.
took like
Yeah.
there's like an empty bottle of pills,
pills,
next to them
yeah.
or something.
and then there's like another part in the game where you go into one of the apartments and there's just like there's a man and a woman and then there's a bunch of like dead children on the sofa
Yeah.
beside them, and you're like it really hits at that point 'cause you're like fuck me, like
There's also Su Chung. You find his remains as well.
with a
Oh, yeah.
fucking
What's left of them? Yeah,
fucking drill through his
Dude,
heart.
That's great.
fucked up.
We'll tear his fucking heart out.
Yeah, he got shit on.
And then Bioshock Infinite. We don't need to talk about it.
We'll save it for a PIF discussion.
Ugh. I get the heebie-jeebies thinking of that game after discussing how fucking excellent Bioshock 1 is.
So
So one comparison, I thought of it earlier, but I didn't know how to jump in with it. The differences between Bioshock Infinite and Bioshock One. It's weird how Bioshock Infinite, the entire design is around being very claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm.
But ironically enough, the Bioshock Infinite's the map design felt more constrictive. 'Cause it's just like corridor, arena shootout, corridor, arena shootout, corridor, arena shootout.
It's like fake openness. They
Yeah.
show you this giant city that's so big and full of stuff, but you have to walk down the little red carpet that the developer led for you the whole time.
Well, what's sad is that like before the game came out, like we were watching I highly recommend you watch Kroby Cat's video on Bioshock Infinite because they show some pre-release footage and it looks like what Columbia would promise is like, it like in the demo it like there's this huge sprawling world you can jump from like platform, like an entire city platform to platform using the sky rail, and it looks
sounds
huge.
like a good idea.
It looks the design looks like it's complemented in Krobcat's video with the fucking that Squid's talking about. Like it almost reminds me of, like the Battlefront 3 footage that was found, the ground combat. That's how like big scale it was. Like you go from the highest like of highs to like down on the bottom ground floor, and it's like, God, I wish there were levels like this in this fucking game. This would be sweet.
Like I can't vouch for any of this because I've still not played it. I can like based off you guys
Hold
generally being right. Based off you guys generally being right, I'm pretty like, and considering Jack likes it, I'm pretty certain that it's bad at this point. But it's definitely
At least look at it.
like I'm definitely.
I don't even know if I can recommend playing the whole thing. You might want to if you're going to review it and talk about it, but
Yeah.
no,
I
I
was-
probably will never replay that game in my life.
I was like, I'll play it again since we're doing these like retrospectives. I'll play it again, and then I watched Beam playing it. I'm like, I really don't want to play it.
But,
It does not look.
Are we moving to closing remarks for Bioshock 1?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I don't really know what else. I can't really put into words how amazing this game is.
Absolutely beautiful game that has essentially no equal, and it's so sad that this didn't become like a genre, right? Like Battle Royale had to become like this big thing, but the amazing game design of fucking BioShock couldn't catch on for some reason.
It's 'cause it
I think
takes
that's so
effort.
stupid, and it will last forever as one of the greatest.
It's
I realized I love it, and I realized I first loved it with the. Oh, when I first realized I loved it was the boss fight with the crazy surgeon, and when he was running through like some oil, and I shot his legs up from underneath him, and as he's getting up, I telekinetically threw a fuel tank into his face, and just the scream and the way the body flew. I was like, okay, this game's fun.
it's definitely like
Yeah.
this game is I would encourage you to try and find a game that's as good, if not better, than Bioshock 1. It is an
It deserves
absolute...
to be on the Mount Rushmore of games.
Rapture.
I think there is a conversation to be had that this is the best game that has ever been released. This
Yeah.
game...
Yeah.
It's up there, dude.
It's it's hard because of how different certain games are, but you have to talk about this game. You have to put it in the conversation.
This game's on the Mount Rushmore of like
Yeah.
masterpiece.
This
fucking
game
video
settled
games.
the debate of whether or not video games could be considered art. If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what
Oh
what
yeah,
would.
this
Considering,
is fucking art.
considering that
And I think this
there's-
does more than like movies or TV shows or art. I think there's more going on with BioShock.
It's
Oh yeah.
the level of detail is unprecedented, especially considering this game came out in 2007. It's like it really does put it into perspective how much this
Ew.
is like. It's unreal.
How much
I
the
don't mean
industry is a fucking joke today.
Yeah, and like I don't mean to repeat myself from earlier, but it's like just piggybacking off of what Spacey said. Like it, I mean that is gaming's biggest strength is the environmental storytelling. Like that is the best thing video games have going for them.
This could be the best game for it, right?
And that's
Yeah.
why it's one of video games' biggest strengths, right? And that especially for storytelling. So that's why when a game like this exists, you're like, oh my fucking god, is this like the best game ever made? And it's like, well, in that regard, yeah, it honestly it's up there. It really is.
I don't know who
It's not
said it.
perfect.
I don't know who said it, but someone said, "It's like, man, wouldn't Bioshock make a great movie?" And I was like, "No, no, no, it wouldn't."
I don't think you could
do it,
capture.
man.
I don't think you could
couldn't- I don't
capture
think you could
everything.
Capture it. I really don't.
I'd be interested to see the fall of Rapture as a movie, because you have like the fall.
How about
of
a
Rapture,
game?
Well, I mean, a game could do it just as well, but I mean, like, considering how interesting the characters are, you kind of experience the fall of Rapture almost like a movie through the audio logs, through like the little snippets that you see throughout the game. You have like, I think you have like newspapers that you can find where it talks about I think it like fell on New Year's and stuff, and it's like,
How about you have like a genuine sequel, Bioshock 3, and it focuses on the fall of Rapture, and like you really make it like a tragedy. Like you focus on the tragedy of this place falling, and like you can even focus on like the environmental storytelling of like the slow decay of the city during the Civil War that's going on and how it's affecting the people. Like that would be a really interesting story to tell. I know it would shit all over Burial at Sea and what that tried to do,
Ugh.
but we need a true sequel, and we're getting one apparently.
Apparently.
Hopefully, allegedly.
No, there is one in development by the people that made Bioshock 2, right?
whether or not it
Yeah,
comes
I
out
mean,
is another question.
It's just we're gonna see what happens though. Like if
That's a
it's bad, it could
promising
just not be
selling point.
finished. We'll have to see, I guess.
but
I really hope.
As we
so.
can see in this day, heroes can fall as quickly as they can rise with cyberpunk and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
like comparing this game to like the likes of Cyberpunk today and stuff, I know it's a little bit arbitrary to try and put numbers onto things, but if there was ever a 10 out of 10 in a game, it would be Bioshock.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I'm not a huge guy with like numbers because like just it's impossible to like rate all the different genres and stuff and put them on like the same scale or whatever. But like this game is in my top 5 easily of best
Yeah.
games of all time.
And I think you're completely right with that. I think one thing you can do though is you can break it down into sections, into gameplay and into story and stuff like that. And story top of the list, gameplay very high, environmental design very high, level design.
yeah, for sure.
I would
Like,
almost
you
struggle
can
to
break
tell
it
you
down.
which is, out of all those things, I would almost struggle to tell you which is best. Like out of the
Yeah,
combination of the gameplay, story, atmosphere, it's like it nails every aspect of what a game should be.
Yeah, I can't think of. I think maybe in terms of the item management, it's hard to beat like Resident Evil 4 or 2, but that's really the only aspect that I can really something comes to mind immediately.
And all the things you guys are saying, I mean, this is why I got so frustrated when I had the conversation with Jack, because it was almost like he just didn't play the same video game we all played. You know what I mean? Like, he just didn't. It's like he just didn't see it. Like, I don't know. It's
It's
that's why it was
strange.
frustrating for me, because I'm like, we have this fucking. I mean, this just indisputably amazing game.
Well,
And,
no, we can give him credit where it's due, because he did upon replaying it, he did say it was
I was gonna get to that. Like, but the first time he played through, granted, he said it was a while since he did, and then it's just like he was saying like all these things that he just didn't find that impressive, and then
Been
he
5 years since I played it.
He replayed it, and I guess he said he had a better experience than he did than whatever he played it the first time or whatever. But it's just like to say that BioShock Infinite is better in literally any regard.
I think that's so strange because I want to say it's like a different of perspective maybe, but each one of us seemed to have interacted with this game differently in how we started with it. So it's not like we all got introduced the same way or heard the same thing or followed the same line there. We all came here from different places.
And we've all came
I want to know where he came differently than us. It's confusing.
And it's the fact that we've all came to the same conclusion, and I'd like to say that I don't know about the rest of you, but this is the first time that I've really spoken about BioShock 1 to this level, because I wanted to keep it for the podcast for the longest time. But the fact that we're all kind of completely in agreement on a lot of aspects of this game, in fact, I can't really think of many times where we've disagreed at all. It's just as close to flawless as you can possibly get.
Yeah, it really is. Nothing's perfect, man. So, like nobody's saying anything's perfect here, but like when you get to the level of what this game produces, it's like at what point do you give a game a 10 out of 10?
Yeah, what would deserve that, right? This.
Like something like this deserves.
If there's such a thing as a masterpiece, this needs to be called it.
If this game were to come out today with like no context at all, just BioShock 1, it would deserve these fucking fake IGN ratings that everyone gets. It would fucking be the one game that does deserve that.
It's timeless.
Yeah, it really is.
If BioShock taught us anything, even Utopia is not perfect.
The moral of the story is
like that quote.
Like this game will be remembered in video game history forever.
Oh yeah,
like I don't doubt that at all.
Moral of the story is BioShock good. Buy it.
BioShock is good.
BioShock Infinite.
Game. Don't buy BioShock Infinite. BioShock Infinite makes my cock not
limp.
Cock.
Would you kindly buy BioShock, subscribe and like the video, and
give us a subscribe. The old 1-2 punch. Leave a like and subscribe.
Give the old like button a 1-2 punch. don't punch it twice because then that unlikes it. So just give the old one punch.
Well, the 1-2,
nice one.
Leave a like.
Egg salad.
If you don't subscribe, you're gonna go busto, kid.
Would you kindly subscribe?
There you go. Now we're gonna get 1 billion subscribers.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
It's just,
See,
there's nothing you
I
can
did
do.
it. I did it, guys. I saved the channel.
I did it, guys. I saved Pafe.
I became
I
the
did the
BioShock.
BioCock.
And remember, most of all, we love you, random
Infinite.
citizens.